which gonna give you additional
We
cards.
see like the Big Game Hunter being the only other 3-drop. But Life Coach here has to decide whether he wants to, Hellfire and just clear this board with 7 power, or be a little bit more greedy and go for like, a Void Caller or a Drake.
I would be kind of shocked if he went for the Void Caller because he does not have a Molten Giant in his hand. If Life Coach had a Molten Giant, he might have just played the Void Caller instead, because he wouldn't be that worried about taking the extra damage from those minions that were already on the board.
Yeah, we do see, though, that he opts for the Hellfire, decides to play it safe, and can't really fault him. That was a lot of power on the board that he was going to have to contend with no Molten Giant, so decides to play it safe. And Kranich is going to play an Imp Gang Boss, it looks like, and actually opt to play the Abusive Sergeant just to put more on the board. Ama is very much indicative of what you said, that kind of all-in approach.
Right. Oh, Kazan Mystic is a tech card that does not work in this matchup.
No, Gul'dan has no secret.
No. But playing the Abusive actually means that Life Coach can play a 4-drop and Mortal Coil, so it's actually the perfect timing to drop the 2-1. Dropping a turn 5 means that Life Coach can actually clear and actually develop a 4-drop, so that was good. Here you can decide between a Drake or a Void Caller, and we see Kranich does have the Owl. Not the worst of things if Life Coach gets his one of his 4-drops silenced, because he would prefer his taunts to stay intact, or even the Mal'Ganis to have his effect. So I guess it's just a preference right now, whether he wants a bit more board or wants a bit more sticky minion.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to say no to the Void Caller, though. With the Mal'Ganis, they're ready and waiting. And Void Caller is also a tiny bit less vulnerable, sorry, less weak to the silence effect.
Sure, but you don't really expect your opponent to have silence. And Drake does contest the Imp Game Boss good enough that Life Coach is going to choose this option.
So of all the options he had, this one feels the least defensive. It puts something on the board. He can taunt it up next turn, but double power overwhelming. I don't think is that enough just yet.
Not
yet, but
that's
a lot of damage. Yeah, if he... wow.
The same thing.
There's so much damage right now.
And this is such a pivotal turn for Kranich. He has to make the read whether he expects Molten Giants or not. Obviously, he can't take out the Twilight Drake without using a power overwhelming, which he wants to keep to finish the game.
Well, you can also silence. The thing is,
you
you do want to silence and kill off the Drake because it's going to gain taunt anyways. You go like, oh, maybe I just silence it when it gains taunt, but it's a minion. Life Coach plays Sunfury and Argus, so you might as well just remove it right now. Defend the Egg right now doesn't really put too much power on the board, so I guess the only other thing Kranich is thinking about is whether to hit the face with these 2 creatures and reduce the hand loss life to very low. It's very, very hard because Molten Giants would be, close to cheap and close to free.
So he's going to trade in that Abusive Sergeant into the Twilight Drake. And then the Imp Gang Boss, again, he's given that consideration.
Yep. Has to think about those Molten Giants. What if Life Coach has a Molten Giant right now? Would it be better not to attack?
Yeah, it's such a tense moment when you're playing in this matchup. Really, when you're playing any more aggressive deck against Handlock, you just kind of sit there soul-searching. Does he have those Molten Giants? Obviously, we know Life Coach doesn't, so Life Coach in a little bit of a scary spot now.
Yeah. Well, thanks to Kranich's attack, he's actually 1 damage off lethal next turn, assuming that Life Coach doesn't do anything, defensive. So like something like a Direwolf Alpha or like a Knife Juggler, could end the game.
Second Abusive even, yeah.
Or a Doom God, because with the power overwhelming playing it first, that would be exactly 13. I completely agree with the decision from Kranich to attack here. Even though Molten Giant and Sunfury would be kind of a problem, he does set up the lethal this way.
Every damage matters.
So the only ways he can get down taunt at this point would be to play Ironbeak Owl as well as Earthen Ring Farseer. He could taunt either of those. But the Void Caller costs just 1 mana too much to be able to combo with a taunt, which obviously he would really like to do here. Yeah. With Mal'Ganis sitting in hand.
Oh! Wow. Doom God. But because of the low tap effect, Kranich won't be able to play the power overwhelming with the Doom God.
Now that's kind of insane. Life Coach probably doesn't realize he just saved himself from dying to all kinds of bad demon stuff.
Kranich is still looking at a very, very good position here, since Life Coach doesn't have those Molten Giants to swing the board back in his favor.
That is so much damage. With 7 mana next turn, Kranich can go double power overwhelming into Doom God for 13 damage directly from his hand.
He actually decides not to attack there. Doesn't want to give the free Molten Giants or the 1 mana Molten Giants.
And it seems like the free Molten Giants is what Kranich is going to lose to right now, right? He already used his Owl, and the only way to get by the toss is to go to the hard way, which is smashing all your minions to it and, all of them dying. So I like that play.
If
Here,
you're
Life Coach is really, really in an awkward position, right? You have 6 mana. You could taunt up the Void Caller and the Lotheb, hopefully grab the Mal'Ganis out, and that's an extra taunt, perhaps. The other choices...
There isn't that much.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
Alright.
This gives you reasonable walls and a
Go.
chance
Whoa.
of getting Mal'Ganis. That is ambitious.
Okay.
Well, let's look at his hand here.
Well, yeah, Kranich has 13 damage out of his hand. Don't think he can spread that out correctly, since the
No.
Lotheb has 5 health and the Void Caller has 4 health.
Even if the second Void Caller comes out of the first Void Caller, it would not be lethal for Kranich just yet. Because he has to deal 4 damage to Void Caller, 5 to the Lotheb, so Life Coach is kind of at 22 right now, so that's the amount of damage that Kranich would have to deal.
This seems to be the swing turn the Life Coach is looking for, and once again, Kranich needs to go do these taunts the hard way. Start with the Implosion. Oh,
Ooh, only rolls a 2, that's really bad for him. Even if he got just a 3, he could have traded the Owl for it, but that the difference between rolling a 3 and a 4 wasn't that huge, but rolling a 2, very bad.
Yeah, so unfortunately in this situation now, he's got to kind of scramble a little bit.
Yeah.
This is kind of walking away a bit from the win condition he wanted. So now he's got to decide, probably play down something like the egg there.
Oh, so painful, just because of that low roll, having to trade in the Gang Boss in addition to the Owl.
yeah, it also felt like that Life Coach went for the face last turn, and it's putting a lot of pressure on Kranich, and Kranich might be thinking, oh, I might be dead to like a Dark Bomb or something. Oh,
Doom
man.
Guard off the top, that's not enough damage, but it's close.
Very,
It's
very
3 damage
close.
off.
Wow. So,
Yeah. Unfortunately, if he
Don't think
tapped
there's
looking
any
for
way
like
to
a Dark
beat.
Bomb,
No.
he wouldn't be able to find it. Although, now that I think about it, last time we saw this list, I don't know if we actually saw any Dark Bombs.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I mean, he
Really?
has to cut something to run Earthen Ring Farseer.
That's true. Maybe just one.
Right.
And yeah, maybe cutting one Mortal Coil seems valid as well. The Mortal Coil is a very strong card
yeah.
against a lot of aggro matchups.
Yeah, it helps a lot to deal with Belchers also, when you have a Twilight Drake out,
Oh,
getting
yeah,
that
that's
extra
true.
damage.
Well, Life Coach here could do something cute with the demons. You know, play some demons, sacrifice your Void Caller to put another demon perhaps. But once again, 7 mana is not really what you're looking for.
Yeah.
A 4 and a 3 drop would be most efficient. Silencing the egg could be good too, if he wants to play the Doom Guard.
It's interesting to see what he decides to go from here. He is looking to heal his own Void Caller.
Yep. And then plays this other Void Caller, so that the Doom Guard and the Mal'Ganis has a bigger chance. Well, has the only chance.
I believe
to come
that's
out.
actually lethal for Kranich here if Life Coach gets the Doom card from that, because with the power overwhelming on the Nerubian egg, dealing 4 to that, he has 4 extra on the board, 9
Yeah.
in his hand. So this is a 50-50 moment right here. Does he get the Mal'Ganis?
Oh,
that's Doom
that is
Guard.
not the right one, and Life Coach is not happy about that. Yeah.
Life Coach, you had one job, Void Caller. Come on. Team effort. That is going to be game. Kranich just snatches it away. And to be fair, like that one looked like it was kind of getting away from Kranich once those taunts came down. The implosion rolled for 2.
But Life Coach did draw some weaker cards there. Getting that Gezan Mystic, for example, it didn't really help that much.
Yeah, at the end of the day, it seems like that 13 damage burst from a Zoo is a lot, you know? Zoo
Yeah.
can burst your opponent.
Sure
That's what
is.
it's made to do. And the power warming also made it so that the trading with the taunt was very, very efficient. And yeah, Kranich gets a Zoo out of the way. It was a really strong deck against Life Coach's lineup anyways, but it's always good to have the first win.
Oh yeah, and that was an important one for Life Coach. Now with his handlock, it's only going to get more difficult than that if that was.
Yeah.
So even though it's only 1-0 for Kranich, I think Life Coach is in a lot of trouble right now.
Right, so Kranich obviously takes a 1-0 lead in this series, and we've talked to Kranich a little bit about the fact he's the only player returning to BlizzCon and how confident that makes him.
Welcome back. There we saw Life Coach. Quite nervous. Not happy about that at all. I mean, there's a lot on the line. Can't blame him.
Yeah, it seems like that match did get stolen away from him, so we'll have to see if he gets his confidence back in the second match, and hopefully he does it.
Yeah, Life Coach is a very experienced player. It's not the first time he's in a spot like this, and I'm sure that mentally he can reset that thing and just like focus on the next game and not worry too much about what just happened.
Yeah, that's very true. So we have a special guest right now with us. Welcome to the table.
Thanks. I just want to point out real quick. Live Coach has to kind of look at that not as a mistake, but as a happy accident kind of game, and he's going to get right back in for game 2. I believe in Live Coach. Glad to be joining you guys. Obviously, I'm a big fan of streams, as I said last night. Big fan of streams. Love streams.
It's very nice for you to take the time out of your very, very busy day and come join us to cast a game of Hearthstone.
I've been so popular on Twitch lately, and I love Hearthstone so much. I just figured I'd come on out and cast some Hearthstone with you guys. Rob had to go to the bathroom anyway, so it seemed like a good time.
No mistakes. Okay. Yeah.
It's a very fun time. I agree.
Who do you
Hearthstone
think
World
is going to
Championship.
win, Kranich or Life Coach?
Oh, tough to say. Life Coach, very, very calm individual, very placid, very nice guy. I really like Life Coach, but that Kranich is a cute gamer boy. I really like him too. Yeah. A lot of happy surprises coming.
No mistakes.
All right. Well, it seems like the game has started, which saves us some time here looking at each other. Life Coach's Kranich. He's gonna play against.
We see actually in Kranich's hands, he's got a couple little trees there. And I really like those little trees. I kind of hope he keeps them. That board's gonna look a lot nicer with those trees on them.
Why is it that trees are so interesting?
They're just very happy. You look at a tree, it's hard to be mad. Just get very excited about trees.
All right. Well, Life Coach definitely is not a big fan of trees and is looking to crush Kranich's Druid here with his handlock. It's not going to be a good matchup, but this hand is also not looking too good.
Yeah.
Life Coach.
Well, both players with pretty bad hands. No mana cards for Kranich right now. He's really looking for either Wild Growth or a Darnassus Aspirant. Innervate would also help. Life Coach with no play for turn 4 right now.
It's really, really slow hands for both of them. Very non-aggressive, nice and peaceful. They don't really look like they want to fight each other. A lot of high mana cards, and don't worry about it later right now.
Yeah, we can see that Kranich doesn't even have a Wild Growth or an Innervate, so it's going to be looking like a hero power into a hero power, which is very, very bad.
Awful hand.
Yeah, but then Life Coach, on the other hand, also doesn't have any 4-drops, so it seems like both players are fishing for those key cards.
Everyone wants to find that Wild Growth. It's such a pretty card. Very, very close to nature.
It does seem like it's a painting done by you.
Oh, wow, I appreciate the compliment, but I'm not at that skill level yet.
Whoa.
All right, well, there's the Wild Growth.
I'm really glad he could get that. That makes me very happy. Nice, happy surprise.
All right. Kranich still needs to look for a 5-drop, though. Not the best curve. And meanwhile, at Life Coach's hand, well, at least he can play an Ancient Watcher. Coining a Void Caller isn't the best option here, since he doesn't have another 4-drop to follow up.
No
right?
demon in his hand right now, so that would be kind of surprising. If he decided to go with that, he might be trying to bait out a silence from Kranich in that case, because Kranich doesn't know Life Coach doesn't have any demons.
Yeah, the bluffing strategy always works with Void Caller. Sometimes the longer you think in ladder, the more they think that, they don't have it, right? But Life Coach always pays so that, bluff is all out of the way.
Void Color would be a nice addition to the board, though. We see a nice magenta-hued colored demon there, a little bit of darker orange-red. Really gonna improve this otherwise kind of bland canvas we've got going on the board right now. No minions.
All right. Well, in that case, what is the most beautiful class based on their decks and colors?
I think that's a very straightforward answer, Amos. It's obviously Druid. He's already got trees in his hand. He's got another one. So many trees for Druid. You got Ancient of War, Ancient of Lore, Force of Nature.
I walked right into that one, I think.
A little bit. You kind of set yourself up there for it, friend.
Life Coach actually just gonna coin out the Void Caller in here.
Oh, wow, that's a very decent 5-drop by Kranich. We know that the best play by him right now would be to charge and kill the Void Caller off, right?
Yeah, but he doesn't know. I would be shocked if he actually decided to go with that play.
The manly play.
Yeah.
You would do that, right, Savish? Like
oh yeah,
10
just
times
risk
out
it.
of 10.
Yeah, there's no demon, obviously. If you Kranich, there's 2 options really. Either the Keeper of the Crow for the silence if you're worried about Doom cards and that kind of stuff, or he could just go with Druid of the Claw Taunt, which we know would work out better in this situation.
He does go for the safer play. Can't blame him.
It's hard to know. It's hard to know what's behind that Void Collar, and you can't really judge a painting until it's finished. And this Warlock hand clearly has a lot of stuff yet to be seen.
Yep. Lots of surprises.
Happy surprises, though.
All right. Speaking of surprises, Life Coach, Kazan Mystic comes in again, and doesn't get any value once again.
Again, like
4 mana,
useless,
4/3.
yeah.
You know, so you can actually decide between taunting up the Ancient Watcher, perhaps. Playing a 4 mana 4/3 seems pretty bad, but not the worst option right now.
I don't think you go with the Kazan. You gotta protect the Void Caller. If he chooses to play the Kazan and not attack, it's fairly obvious that there's no demon, because otherwise he would have just pulled it out with the Void Caller. Life Coach really wants to tap, but if he does choose to tap, he cannot protect the Void Caller. So he needs to make a decision here between keeping the Void Caller or light tapping.
Yeah, I guess I would prefer the taunting of the Ancient Watcher here. It does make your other turns quite hard, since you use a lot of small mana minions. But I mean, come on, like Lotheb into Emperor into Dr. Broom seems like a pretty good curve.
Yep, and he does go with that. Also taunting up the Void Caller. I'm tiny bit surprised that he chose to go with that. Maybe he wants to hide the fact that there is no demon waiting on the other side.
You guys brought up an interesting point. That Kazan Mystic, great card in its own right. Does a lot of powerful stuff in the right scenario, but it's all about bringing the right tools when you're making your masterpiece. And when Life Coach looks down at his color palette, he sees a lot of nice demons and silences. And Dr. Boom's always a great one to have too. Very powerful color, but Kazan Mystic's maybe not the tool for this job.
Not for this game especially, but maybe for another game it'll bring more clarity to the board.
What do you think he's looking to use that tool on him, Oz?
Perhaps Kranach's Hunter, which Kranach's has, but not this one. So we'll have to save the surprise for later.
Yeah, okay, Kranich here with 6 mana. There's a few options. It seems like the silence would be kind of the obvious one, the Void Caller.
Oh wow, going for the Ancient Watcher kill, that can never feel good. If you're going to, remove a 2-drop just by killing off the Druid of the Claw. That effectively is like a bigger Dark Bomb, right?
Yep.
It's very nice for Kranich, or very nice for Life Coach. Kranich, obviously doesn't understand. Life Coach had no demons at the time.
Yeah.
That Void Caller was a big old bluff, big old lie.
Yeah, Life Coach pretty proud of himself. I'm assuming that he did get the Void Caller to get silenced and get value that way. And now turn 5, pretty easy Lotheb here.
Yep.
The trading is also pretty nice. With the Sun Fury against the Druid of the Claw.
Yeah, definitely a lot. Nothing else really makes any sense. If he went for the light tap, it's possible that he had no minion to play at all.
It's easy to look at that Keeper of the Grove and think that maybe Kranich ruined it a little bit, but he didn't ruin it. It was just he was playing to what he thought might be there, and that's sometimes something you got to do in these high-level tournaments.
Absolutely.
There you go. Kranich actually played the top deck Ancient of Lore immediately, which if Life Coach is just looking at what Kranich is doing, might come to the conclusion that he only has one Ancient of Lore. Sometimes these edges help the overall match, right? You just want to pick those small advantages when you can.
Yep. And here, 6 mana available. Mountain Giant and Emperor Tourism both seem kind of like decent plays. You'd expect him to trade low that. Yeah, he does go for it.
Really sad Life Coach got rid of that tree.
Oh.
That tree was making the board look a lot nicer. Now it's gone. Hope
But
Life
Lotheb
Coach
is not a tree. Oh, I mean, okay.
Ancient of Lore is a tree.
Okay, I get what you mean.
Kranich with quite a few tools here. Just choose whatever he wants out of those. There's a lot of good plays.
I think what Kranich is thinking about is the possibility of double combo, since his Innervator is in the hand. So Kranich is just looking to stabilize the board and not get the handlock out of hand, so to say.
Out of hand. That was delightful. I like that. So happy. So happy, by the way, that Kranich is playing Druid.
Oh, man. And, just maintain board pressure, just clear the board, get a 22 damage combo out to finish the game, perhaps.
That'd be a lot of damage. There's a lot of trees.
Starts with a Wrathful one. picks up the Emperor Thoris not his own. Is there a way for him to get the Emperor out right now and deal with the Emperor from Life
Yeah,
Coach's
not
side?
exactly right now, it seems like. So it's just going to clear the board once again. Emperor can just come down next turn. That's perfectly fine.
Sure,
as well.
it's going to be quite good. He could even go for the second lore before playing the Emperor to get even more value with
That's
it.
true. But reducing down double Savage Roar is already like a huge deal.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, Darnassus Aspirin comes down. She is riding a cat. That's very nice. A lot of cats like those. But that's gonna give her an extra mana crystal too.
Yeah, on turn 8, not really too crazy, but at least establishes a minion, I guess. And of course, Kranich looking to Emperor the 2 Savage Roars. Doesn't seem like he needs to innovate, so he just goes ahead and plays a little bit more board, set up for the Emperor and Shredder next turn, and then see where to go from there.
Yep.
Life Coach, a handful of minions is going to be... It's going to be quite a difficult task to respond to Kranich's board right now. I guess Dr. Boom is the best option here, just to, you know, try and take back the board.
Most likely he will not life tap here, considering that with those 2 minions on the board, Kranich with a Force of Nature Savage Roar would be threatening 22 damage.
Obviously, the Druid here looks to do its painting all in one turn. Get all that damage and just finish up right then and there, whereas Life Coach would like to take this a little bit longer, kind of take his time on his work, and Druid's not really going to let him have it.
Nope. There's the Gesan, effectively a pilot-less Shredder in this matchup.
that's a good, because most Shredders are piloted. I like it. I like it.
And there's the Force of Nature for Kranich.
And yeah, once again, Emperor is going to be super effective here in making Kranich's hand be able to play double combo right from his hand. And I really can't see any other play. And of course, you can back that up with Shredder as well. Maybe it's a little bit weak to Hellfire or Shadow Flame, but yeah, just establish, you know, the minions and just go for the win next turn.
I don't think he's too worried about those right now. So there needs to be the AoE and some ridiculously strong taunts.
Yeah. And because Life Coach is at a life total of 24, Kranich doesn't even have to worry about any Molten Giants coming down the board.
Right. Oh, Sun Fury Protector, very important draw. But is it going to be enough?
Usually it is, because Sun Fury Protector, even taunting a 1 health creature like a Boombot perhaps, will soak a lot of damage, right? It'll soak perhaps 4 damage from the hero attacking from the double Savage Roars. So taunts actually mess up the Force of Nature really, really badly.
Yep. Taking his time, looking like he's in pain.
Well, the only thing he can really do to get rid of that Emperor Thorsan is play down the Doom Guard. But he looks so angry. That Doom Guard is yelling. He's really going to ruin the vibe of this whole game. Just coming down, shouting.
Okay.
Owl Doom Guard Sun Fury Protector Doom Guard would let him get a full clear here, but he would discard 2 cards, and one of those could be the Dr. Boom.
So would you want to play Doom Guard first and perhaps discard one of the Owls?
It's an interesting
It's
thought.
very risky, and Life Coach, yeah, thinking his brains out here.
He's gonna go for the Dr. Boom, but
Oh!
that means that he will not play the taunt.
And that is it.
Yeah, that's going.
Kranich, that's a lot of damage. 22 from the hand and 9 from the Emperor.
Oh my goodness,
Oh,
even
yeah.
hero power.
Might as
So,
well throw in the interface.
23 from the hand and 9 on body. 32 damage for
These trees are
Kranich
celebrating. They're doing a lot of damage. They big numbers. They're happy. They're dancing. They're charging. I really like what Kranich has done. These are happy trees.
All right. Well, of course, once you join the desk, the Force of Nature does pick up a win here, and congratulations goes to Kranich. He's up 2-0.
Yep. Only has his Hunter left now. And
Yeah.
Life Coach with his hand lock still.
Oh man.
It's going to be rough. It's doable though, with the right cards.
Yeah. It's not necessarily that Life Coach read the meta wrong, it's just that he's facing an opponent that's built a lineup very, very strong against control decks. And the Handlock is one of those decks where, you know, you have to wrap up early on and play these big creatures later on. And yeah, kind of just Zulok did it really well, and the Druid was a lot of pressure. And Life Coach needs to win 3 straight now, which is going to be really hard.
Yeah. I wonder if it's like...
Thank you, Savish. Thank you, Savish. Obviously, we saw a great game there. Just a ton of fun. I'm super happy I got to cast this Hearthstone match. We used Kranich. He's a lovely palette of nature and trees, and it ultimately proved to win him the game. So he's got a commanding lead in this series. I've got to go right now. I've got more paintings to do, but thank you for having me. It's been a lot of fun, and Bye-bye.
It's nice having you with us.
Yeah, what a nice and inspiring visit from the man himself.
Sure was.
Yeah, we're gonna miss him, right?
Absolutely.
Are you going to miss him?
I am. But let's get back into the match.
So
Kranich-
you said Eden kind of just like a big favorite, right? What can Life
Absolutely.
Coach do? I mean, obviously you want momentum to be back on your side first, so you want to go with the best class. So if you were a Life Coach, what would you pick here?
I would probably... Well, all of these are not very good against that, but maybe with the Warrior.
Okay.
There's a lot of tools in that they can deal with the early minions from Kranich. With those weapons, for example. That hand lock... Might want to wait for a little bit later with it. We didn't even see any dark bombs, right?
Yeah, we
Didn't
didn't
see
see
a
it.
single dark bomb, and that's very important early
Yeah,
on
it's
against
such-
Hunter.
It's such a reactive card, and a couple of the Doomguard can actually burst your opponent down from, very high amounts of health that perhaps you expect Handlock not to make from, just very rampy cards like Giants and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
We do know that his Warrior deck is a very, very control heavy, right? Just
It
because
is.
True Heart might get the health lead he needs to beat a Hunter.
Yep. Early on, that's where the troubles might come. If the Hunter has a nice curve, goes 1, 2, 3, 4, it can be... the early damage just might be too much, and those slow, expensive legendary minions might be too late.
Yep, playing on curve is definitely a very, very important thing to do. And hey, Rob, you decided to join us back.
Yeah, where were you?
I actually ended up getting lunch. I stopped by though in the hall. Seems like you took good care of you guys. So I'm super glad. And, looks like we're getting right into game 3 here. So Kranich up 2-0 on Life Coach, and mid-range Hunter versus Control Warrior.
Yeah.
Certainly a
very-
matchup that over time we've seen really kind of go to the Control Warrior, to the mid-range Hunter. But I think the Control Warrior has a pretty good chance here.
Yeah, it's definitely a matchup of the ages. Back when Control Warrior was super prevalent, people were like, oh, let's just bring Savannah high main to beat the Warriors, right? So really what Life Coach is going to do in this match is to figure a way to kill the Savannah high main, the first one, because you don't expect the second one, and then just, win from there.
Yep.
He's got a good early curve for it too.
Yeah, not bad at all. Does start with that web spinner. The mid-range Hunter very low on 1-drops, but he does get it here. Definitely helps.
And for Live Coach, kind of the name of the game, at least for this turn, will probably at some point end up being Armor and Pass.
Yep.
But
Right.
Live Coach is going to take his time, figure out what he wants to do. Kranich's hand is just full of spiders, which feels awkward to say, but there they are.
Happy Halloween.
Happy Halloween! It's spiders. Very spooky hand, even.
Yeah.
Spooky spiders.
It's
and
also the
spooky
Tavern
lions.
Brawl, right?
Yeah.
Very thematic.
Kranich, like some others, big role player. So
Oh, you're calling Kranich a role player now.
I am. I'm calling him out.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, Kranich is going to show you and he's going to win this game and move on to BlizzCon.
Yeah, I was gonna say, Life Coach. For him, this was a chance to kind of get a little bit of revenge. But Kranich so far is doing work.
Yep.
You see here, Life Coach has that Acolyte of Pain he can play down. He could also play down the Big Game Hunter if he wanted to. But with those one-attack minions, it's kind of too tempting to just draw all those cards.
Yep.
Yeah, you definitely want to go for the Acolyte here. He knows that Kranich does have a Dr. Boom in his deck as well, so holding on to that Big Game Hunter for later on is very valuable.
Eagle Hornbow, great counter to Acolyte of Pain. Gonna ensure that it basically ends up just being a cycled card. And he's gonna be able to continue pushing aggression and might just save that coin. Yeah, probably just save that coin for the high main.
Yep.
Now, it's very important for Life Coach to establish this Fire War Axe since he's going to play a Belcher next turn. He wouldn't have any answers for perhaps a Pile Strider from Kranich, or even what he has right now, a Knife Juggler plus a Haunted Creeper. If he decides to cycle for more cards, he might get punished a little bit.
Kranich being able to get to that turn 5 Savannah high main will be huge for him. But at the same time, Life Coach, right around, as you pointed out, turn 5 here, he's going to have the Sludge Belcher. He has another Sludge Belcher. He could even look at using something like Shield Block, Shield Slam to get rid of the initial body of the Savannah high main. So Life Coach is actually in a pretty reasonable spot here, I think.
Yeah, it's not looking bad at all. Has those tools, Shield Block, Shield Slam, easy way to deal with the high man. Equipping the weapon here, considering whether or not he should hit something with it. It's actually a tough call because it doesn't accomplish all that much to kill either one of those minions.
Yeah, that's true.
You're only killing one, so the Houndmaster could come down.
Yeah,
So.
in any case.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Might just armor up and pass. Goes for the Haunted Creeper.
Yep, this is the side that the Haunted Creeper, if it gets Houndmastered, it will turn into a 4-elf creature. Whereas the West Spinner would turn into a 3 health creature, which still dies to the axe.
That's
Makes
a
sense.
really important consideration. So this is now the Animal Companion draw. I feel like maybe complicates his turn a little bit. You probably still keep the coin for the high main, but there is a world where if you're really looking to put on the pressure, you could Knife Juggler, coin, Animal Companion. You know, even Leok would be really solid here. Huffer, obviously always appreciated in situations where you're trying to push the board. And with the Fiery War Axe equipped, maybe even Misha's not all that bad. So
Yeah.
really, there's any scenario where anything he gets off this Animal Companion is super useful.
Yep, and Kranich agrees with you and gets a Misha. Perfect.
Yep. And he holds on to the coin, so he's not putting down as much pressure into the board, but it's also important to know he's going into the Brawl turn.
That's true. Luckily for Kranich, this isn't a board that Life Coach really wants to brawl. I mean, if he really has no answers, he will use a brawl, and then Kranich, I think he will be pretty happy about it, right? Dr. Broom
Sure.
is a card that's pretty weak to brawl in general. So now Life Coach without a Whirlwind effect, this is a bit tricky for him. Perhaps a Belcher could stall a little bit.
Yep, with the double Belcher in his hand, makes a lot of sense to get one of those played right now, even though it's not that perfect against Kranich's board.
It might not be the play he ultimately goes with here, but you could Shield Block, Shield Slam, get rid of the Misha, swing into the Web Spinner. You take all the beasts off the board. Obviously, you're not developing that Sludge Belcher, which is very important for keeping the damage away. But that Sludge Belcher, if it comes down and it just gets silenced, Kranich is suddenly pushing a fair bit of damage. So even though he has a Sludge Belcher to follow up, it's also a question of kind of can he stay, I guess, afloat in the tempo.
No, and does that.
Yeah,
does
he goes
remove
for the
the
Shield Slam. And with this play, I would imagine that he's going to swing at the Web Spinner, but he might not, because he might not have the extra mana to equip the second action next turn. So he wants to keep it for potential Shredder or something along those lines.
Oh, speaking of which, the silence does come in
Yeah,
hand
there it is.
for Kranich. And yeah, just coin high main. This is the turn you're waiting for to do exactly that.
It would be best case scenario. Obviously, Kranich draws a second high main
Yeah.
next turn and just high main, Dr. Boom.
But one high main is enough because the high main rule states that if you play a high main when your opponent has no board and it connects to the face at least one time, you win the game.
Is that an established rule?
That is an
I don't think I've ever
established
heard
rule. Yep.
That's I believe it though, based
Yeah.
on my experience.
One of my 100 established rules that
Wow.
seem to work every time.
If you would publish those, I would love to read them.
Oh, all right, all right.
Yeah, normally in my 100 decks there is no Savannah high main, so I'm actually not super sure how it works.
No
And,
high mains in your 100 decks?
Just face.
Oh,
it doesn't
no.
have charge, so
Doesn't have charge either.
no Savannah high main. No, but I'm saying Savannah high main doesn't have charge, so it's not really.
Oh,
Something I wanna run.
So it's not your kind of 100 deck
No,
then,
not my
if you-
kind of
if you're
100
playing
deck.
it.
Yeah, but-
the scumbag hunter.
Wow, really aggressive, Maz. I prefer to think, you know, a busy man. Things to
Okay.
do. You know, sometimes I want to get in a game while I'm drinking my coffee, and for those games, I need to go fast. So I need charge minions. Life Coach not going to go fast here. He's going to get the Sludge Belcher down.
Doesn't have an option really.
Yeah, that's a tricky turn for him. And ooh, with the kill command off the top, this is going to represent a lot of damage very quickly.
Yeah, this is getting so problematic for Life Coach. He didn't have a good way to deal with that high main, and the board is only going to get worse and worse.
We see Jescar Trueheart in Life Coach's hand, which a lot of times can be the decider as far as stalling out the match, but right now he's facing down so much damage.
Yep.
Yeah, where does he find the time to play the Justicar?
Right.
Well, Life Coach really just needs the brawl to, you know, stabilize the board, hopefully come back from the game with the Justicar. But Kranich's hand is looking really, really good. Dr. Broom next turn with a kill command to follow up later on. And he's also going to draw cards before that happens, right? Perhaps like another kill command would be pretty crazy.
I don't really see a way for Life Coach to turn this around unless he draws a brawl. Without a brawl, a board like this is almost impossible to clear.
I think he was there. So he was searching to see if he could get the Knife Juggle to hit the Sludge Belcher before he silenced it. This is still good. There's nothing on the board, and as you said, unless he finds a brawl really soon here. All right, Amaz, it hit the face once.
Yep.
Let's see if your rule holds.
Exactly. Like Kranich really wanted to hit the face, right? But oh, this despite was really late. If Life Coach actually equipped this to turn 4, this board might not have looked like this.
Do a little bit of math here and see if there's a world. I think.
He can go for some kind of Death Spite into Fire War Axe play just to get the Whirlwind defect off. He has one extra for the Execute as well, but is it enough?
This is it's important to note. Life Coach has 2 Executes in hand, but they kind of just aren't super effective here. There's so many minions on the board with 1 health. Savannah Highmane will ultimately make 2 Hyenas, and with the Knife Jugger on board, it's even worse. So you have to get rid of that first.
But right now, Life Coach has to solve the problem in front of him. The only Whirlwind effect is from breaking his own Despite. So possible
Yeah.
play might be just equip the Despite, you know, perhaps swing with it and then get the Firewall Axe to kind of override it for the Whirlwind
He kind of
effect.
has to do it. It's not that great, but I think he has to go for it.
You still have mana left over to execute the Savannah Hymen, so
Yep.
it's not that bad, judging from the situation.
Wasting the death spot in some way. And seems like he's going to go for something else. Probably the Belcher.
Okay.
Belcher always feels safe to play. You're like, come on, save me, Belcher. Save me.
Well,
It will save him, it looks like, for this turn.
yeah, it's and now Kranich has 2 options, right? Dr. Boom for 7, or we can do the Oasis plus Kill Command for 7 as well.
Well, he's got to actually get rid of some minions on the board if he wants to get full value from the boom boss.
That's true. So he might just go along with the Kill Command and Savannah Hymen rule Life Coach's face again.
Yeah, that's Savannah Hymen there for 3rd turn already. And still at full health. When Hymen survives that long,
Is it
if you're
time
the
for
Hunter player, you know you're doing good.
The 2015 debut of Oasis Snapjaw? Is it? No.
No,
Nope.
not yet.
Aw.
Plays around the brawl a little bit. Kranich knows that the Life Coach doesn't have it, but Life Coach could draw it from the top.
Yeah, I'm not seeing a way out of this one for Life Coach.
He might be roping for the last time.
I mean, for
In
this
this
game,
tournament.
obviously.
That is brutal.
Obviously.
That is absolutely. No, to be honest, here he can despite the Creeper, right? Replace it with another weapon, execute the Savannah Hymen, and he'll be down at 1 health.
Wow.
And hey, Kranich doesn't have 1 damage.
I mean, where would he find it?
You can't find it for Unleash the Hounds.
No, that's not going to do it.
Yeah.
Unleash no good for now.
Unleash no good. So maybe Life Coach top decks in Alexstrasza, maybe.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah, obviously, dark situation for Life Coach, but you just have to try to stay alive for now. See what you can find.
It's really the only way to stay alive.
And the one plus side I see for this, for Life Coach, is that Kranich is not running that charge-heavy Hunter, so there is a chance he just draws like a second Web Spinner or something.
Okay, well, Life Coach doesn't even want to take that 1 damage from the Hunter Creeper.
Wow.
Goes ahead and replaces the weapon like this, executes the Savannah Hymen, and now he can actually kill one of the hyenas.
Yeah, not a great turn, but he's doing what he can. Down to 6 HP. Kranich needs just 2 more damage to end the series.
Oh, that's
Wow,
not it just
Dr.
yet.
Boom and Web Spinner too. That what a curve-friendly turn.
Yeah,
You have to float the mana. Golden Dr. Boom, no less.
there it is.
Oh,
Life
man.
Coach does have a big game Hunter, but there's still those Doom Boo bots, and
Oh, Yuzer's not the card you want to draw right now. And I think that's it. There's actually no way for Life Coach to get out of this situation. And
I
hey,
believe so.
yeah, Kranich is going to take the series and advance to BlizzCon.
We'll see just what happens here, but I feel like you're right. He's going to see if maybe he can try to float the... Nope. Yeah, just obviously we know Hero Power, pretty solid, but yeah, that's it's going to do it. That is going to do it for Life Coach.
Oh yeah, Kranich breathed a sigh of relief, while Life Coach seems a little bit disappointed, and rightfully so.
Kranich and Life Coach exchange very polite, well played. Obviously, they're competitors, have a lot of respect for each other, and I like seeing that. I feel like we don't necessarily see that enough in Hearthstone, but you know, Kranich understands that even though he was the Asia Pacific champion, beating a player of Life Coach's caliber is still something to be super respectful about, right? Life Coach is an incredibly well-known player. Obviously, 2015, I think prior to Ty's being on this kind of tear he's on now, was largely considered the year of Life Coach because of all the things he was winning. So, congrats to Kranich. Great to see.
Yeah, great showing from Life Coach still. He made it a long way to get here. Finishing in the a little bit before BlizzCon, but he'll still be there. He'll still be enjoying the event. Unfortunately, not playing.
Yeah, on the other hand, Tice will be representing Life Coach's team, G2, and he's going to be cheering for his teammates, so it's not like the end of the world for Life Coach.
Yeah.
He will still root for his teammate. to
Yeah,
win the
good
whole thing.
teammates, and I'm sure that Life Coach will also be helping out Tice as much as he can to maybe try help Tice become the world champion this year.
Right, speaking of Tice, he actually was talking earlier on Twitter about the fact that even though he would have to play Life Coach, if Life Coach won, and he felt that Life Coach was favored against his lineup, he was still rooting for Life Coach because they're very good friends. They obviously, for Tice, he would rather play Life Coach than see Life Coach not make it, but maybe Ty is breathing a small sigh of relief that he won't have to take on his friend in the round of 8.
Yep.
All right, and now we actually have Kranich ready for his second interview of the Hearthstone World Championship. Rachel, take it away.
Thanks so much, guys. I am here with Kranich, and Kranich, You faced Life Coach twice in this tournament. You did an incredible job in this last round, 3-0. Who is left that you're even a little bit afraid of in this top 8?
Well, there are so many strong players who are already in the quarterfinals, but like Tice must be most fearsome player because he will just prepare to revenge his teammate. So yeah, I mean like he'll be the most hard opponent, I guess.
Yeah, he might be out for revenge on you after knocking out Life Coach, but we'll see if he's able to take it. Now, what has been the biggest difference for you between last year playing and this year playing at BlizzCon?
Well, I think this year is like the tougher one, I guess. I mean, like I had only 3 matches this year, but like I'm already really exhausted because of so tough matches, and yeah, I mean the competition is real. Yeah, it's I don't know. I think this year is like harder.
This year is, it might be harder. You're the one to tell us the difference between the two, but if you're so tired, I'll let you guys go rest. We have more Hearthstone matches coming up next. Please don't go anywhere.
Yeah, so as Kranich said, obviously, he has to face down Tice next. No small feat. Tice has kind of tailored his matchup or his roster to kind of dealing with decks like Kranich's. So for Kranich, it's going to be a few days of kind of studying, hitting the books, trying to figure out what he can do to give himself the edge in this upcoming rest of the Hearthstone World Championship. But very strong showing from him, and very strong showing from the Asia Pacific regions thus far in the Hearthstone World Championship.
Yeah, definitely. Tice is going to be a tough opponent for him, but if he can get past Tice, he might even take it all.
Okay. All right, we want to take a quick second here to thank our sponsors for helping to make the Hearthstone World Championship possible. Obviously, go take a look at all the stuff they are putting out there. Very good stuff, and we're super happy to have their support. But before we get into our next match, let's have a quick look at some of the highlights from the last series, brought to you by Windows 10 Game DVR.
The 2015 World Championship Series Global Finals is brought to you in part by Intel, Windows 10, MasterCard.
Welcome back, everyone. I'm at the Hearthstone World Championship with Rob. It's so good to see you. There was this guy. He looked a lot like you. He was on the casting desk. Did you see him on your way in or out?
I talked to him a little bit. Very, very upbeat, positive guy. Very much enjoyed talking to him. Love his work.
Yeah, brilliant. And positivity does seem to be the theme of the tournament. We have, of course, we have Hotform, who is like equivalent to positivity in my mind. He's got such a great community, such a positive outlook, and we're going to see a little from him today. But so many of the players.
Yeah, no, it's been, as it's kind of been stated over and over the course of this, it's been a very friendly gathering of players, and Hotform especially, as you talked about. Hotform has spoken to all of us at length about the merits of positivity, and very much enjoyed talking to him about that. So excited to see if maybe that kind of rubs off on the rest of the community. We see a more positive Hearthstone community in 2016.
Oh, well, we have such a great community in chat. I see you in there giving your energy, sharing the rope, everything you need to do to get your favorite players to win. So if you want to join the conversation, it's hashtag HWC2015 on Twitter. And you want to say anything to the people, Rob?
Yeah, obviously, we love hearing back feedback about how everything's going, and we love hearing who you think is going to win and who you're supporting. So feel free to hit us, any of us, up on our own individual Twitters, and we'll be tweeting and hanging out throughout the course of the day.
All right, thank you guys so much. We got more games coming. Don't go anywhere.
Hotform versus Nalio!
Welcome to our final Group C match. It is going to be a rematch of Hotform and Nelio. Two I don't know if I should say friends, but acquaintances who like to share some ideas from time to time.
Yeah, as we heard over the past couple of days when they first met, Nilio and Hotform have played each other on the ladder a number of times. They became friends discussing decks and strategy and their matches before. And this is the second time they have met in this event. Hotform was able to win the first time, but it was a very, very close match.
Yeah, it was extremely close. Hotform here. Jab was really struggling with his tempo mage, and I'm kind of curious to see if Hotform can perform better.
That's actually a theme we've sort of seen both Jab and Hotform playing this tempo mage deck, and it has kind of been a little inconsistent for the both of them.
That's always been the case.
While you are playing a deck with Flamewaker and Arcane Missiles and Unstable Portal, that's just something that kind of happens sometimes.
Yeah, it's his own decision to play that deck, and it can be extremely powerful, but it is inconsistent, like you mentioned.
Yes.
Now, just a quick recap of how things are rolling through today. We have this match for you guys, and it will be followed by our last match of this pre-BlizzCon tournament. So far, we have 2 European players who have qualified in the previous days. We have 2 Chinese players who qualified in the previous days. And today, so far, 2 Asia-Pacific players have qualified. But we have yet to have a qualifying player from the Americas region. Hotform perhaps can be the first candidate here. And followed up, Purple will have his chance as well.
Yeah, both Canadian players remaining in this event. The United States itself, unfortunately, is out of the running for the BlizzCon Championship. Firebat will remain the only American BlizzCon champion for the time being, at least. But we are into Game 1 here, where Hotform is playing his Tempo Mage deck and Nilio is playing Warrior. And this is interesting because I think some of the pick dynamic in terms of the order of what decks you choose to play when is based on what happened last time. And last time, Hotform played his Rogue deck. Hotform felt like his Rogue deck was his weakest deck against Nilio's lineup and didn't think Nilio would play Warrior first, wanted to try and get his Rogue deck out of the way.
Nilio tries to go Warrior first now.
Because you know that I know that you know that I know. It's this very Princess Bride poison thing going on here.
Yeah. Well, this opening with the random-based mage deck thing has not worked out today so far.
So this is one of the matchups where the mage deck can be pretty strong.
Yeah.
We saw that Hotform does play 2 copies of Mirror Image in his deck. And that's a card that, if he is able to pick it up early in the game, can do a lot of work protecting his minions from Nilio's weapons.
Yeah, this game is basically, do you have Fiery War Axe? If you do, I guess you win. But Mirror Image kind of sets up, so maybe it denies that a little bit.
And in this game, Nilio is the first player. He has a hand of all expensive legendary minions and a big game hunter, which isn't particularly good against Hotform's deck, while Hotform has opening hand of double Mana Worm.
Yeah, horrible hand from Nilio. No weapon to be found just yet. And Hotform in a good matchup with a good starting hand. Nilio really looking for the weapon too.
You see Hotform with a little bit of smile and stretch there as Nilio takes his time in the first turn.
I'm kind of curious how you'd play this through with the mage, because you don't have any other spells, and even if you get ones that are somewhat mediocre, you'd want to save it for the Flamewaker. So would you consider doing turn 1 Mana Worm and turn 2 Mana Worm Coin Scientist?
That I think is the best way to use your resources efficiently here. You could play Mana Worm, then just coin Mana Worm. But that leaves you with, as you said, no more spells to buff them. And it looks like he is going to choose that. I think that picking up the second Mad Scientist may have somewhat informed that decision as well, because he does have another play on turn 3 other than the Flamewaker, which you would just be exposing to getting killed.
Yeah, but I completely agree with taking this aggressive approach here. He knows that even if Nilio has the Fiery War Axe, he can only kill 1 minion with it. Next turn there's going to be another minion coming out from Hotform, and there's going to be that 1 extra minion going for face each turn.
How many worthless cards and cards above 6 mana can you possibly draw in a row?
I take offense to you calling Ysera worthless.
I was talking about Big Game Hunter.
How much is the total mana cost of Nilio's hand right now?
It is probably more than the total mana cost of Hotform's deck. It's not actually.
Oh,
but
just creatures? Maybe.
Minion-wise, it could be. It very well could be.
Because there are a ton of spells in Hotform's deck.
That's true. Yeah, Ysera, Grom, Justicar Trueheart, and Baron Geddon here in Nilio's hand. All cards that are very, very powerful if you are able to bridge the gap to the late game, but we're on turn 2.
Yeah.
Nilio with absolutely nothing to play here, but still taking his time. We have seen this from him in his previous series as well. He really likes to think about the future turns and maybe try to bluff his opponent a tiny bit.
Yeah, Sorcerer is pretty nice, but I think I'd like to see Mad Scientist first, because if you have exactly 2 Mirror Entities, you want to get 1 out immediately, so the chances of you drawing into 1 of whatever's left just diminishes greatly.
Yeah. Sorcerer's Apprentice is also a card that you can play in the same turn as a spell to guarantee that mana discount, which increases your overall efficiency.
Yep.
Nilio picking up a Slam, not, again, even it is a cheap card, not really a card that's great in this position. He could potentially slam the Mad Scientist, but neither of the other minions actually die to it. I wouldn't be surprised to see him slam one of those Mana Worms, just kind of dig for extra cards. He needs to find something that does something.
I wouldn't be surprised to see the Big Game Hunter. I mean, we're 5 spells short of Big Game Hunter being useful, and if it gets to that point, you're dead.
The problem there is that Big Game Hunter does just trade straight up with that Mad Scientist, which is not particularly compelling either.
Right, but if you slam here, what are you expecting to play?
It's not that you're expecting to play something that's
but
necessarily.
The hand is so horrible right now. I feel like he has to go with the slam just to draw and try to find something better for next turn.
Yeah, and that is what Nilio chooses to do. He wants to dig into his deck. He finds Bash,
that's something.
which is okay.
Slam 2.0.
He would have much preferred to have that Bash on this turn to be able to immediately remove that Mana Worm and use this mana efficiently, playing the 3-cost spell on turn 3.
Gain some armor is pretty nice.
And I like this play, which it looks like we're going to see from Hot Form, which is Sorcerer's Apprentice and Frostbolt your face. Because normally, just throwing burn spells at your opponent's face early in the game is not a strategy that you typically employ, but against a warrior deck that is going into turn 4, where you're
so few options already.
Well, you're afraid of something like Death Spite coming out. And when you Frostbolt and freeze your opponent, they can't play and use that Death Spite, which puts them farther behind in their ability to use removal effects.
Yeah, and not only that, but also using that Frostbolt right here, it buffs both of the Mana Worms, so it's effectively 5 damage right now.
It's a pretty good draw, though. He can do Bash, Shield Slam to remove the 2 biggest threats on the board.
So that Slam did draw Nilio to this 4-mana play this turn, which allows him to significantly reduce the incoming damage and gain a little bit of armor.
Yep. Anything else but a Bash Shield Slam would be a surprise here.
Though I expect that Nilio will take his time before ultimately playing those 2 cards.
Yeah, based on the previous turns.
I think there's actually some reason to decide whether you want to kill both Mana Worms or a Mana Worm and the Sorcerer Apprentice.
That's true. That is true. Picking specifically which targets you'd like to kill is important. I believe Nilio does have Cruel Taskmaster in his deck, which could be some incentive to leave up the 1 health minion. Because he is so far behind, it's possible he just kind of needs to play to get lucky. He kind of needs to play to draw specific things that will help dig him out of this.
Yep, starts with a Bash. Fairly obvious there, but this is a decision here. Do you want to kill the Mana Worm or the Sorcerer Apprentice?
So the Sorcerer's Apprentice, both with 2 health, so maybe a little bit harder to kill, as well as the fact that it does represent, currently at least, the same amount of damage as the Mana Worm.
Yep. Flame Strike, not a helpful draw,
yeah,
but
Hot Form on that draw, and because he's unwilling to play the Flame Ward, he's actually not developing much of a board. He actually lost more of a board than he was able to develop over the last turn from both players. So Nilio's starting to crawl back into this game, but 16 life is fairly low. This is kind of the range where a couple lucky draws in a row can seal the game for Hot Form.
Yeah, turn 5, really wanted to play up there. Nowhere to be found. Armor Big Game Hunter, better okay-ish, but the Big Game Hunter just going to trade with the Mad Scientist.
And we are seeing Hot Form's draw there, that the Flame Strike, that's a card that's not particularly common in Tempo Mage decks because of the way that it works in this sort of dynamic. Tempo Mage decks, Flame Strike's great against aggressive decks, but if you do draw Flame Strike at a point where you're trying to apply pressure to a control deck like this Control Warrior, can really give you a little bit hiccup in the development of your curve.
Yeah, yeah. I think he's just looking for an efficient card to play along with the Flame Waker, possibly a Frostbolt, even like I think a Mirror Image would be pretty good.
Oh yeah, absolutely. That still remains a very powerful card. He does have a solid board here. Though Hot Form probably is getting to the point now that we're at the reasonably later on in the game where Nilio has access to more mana. He's got to be afraid of Brawl. He doesn't want to necessarily just dump his hand into play and potentially lose all of it.
What do you think about pinging your own Scientist after killing the Armor Smith?
It's an interesting play, and it's a heads-up play noting that your opponent can potentially play a larger next turn. I actually like that quite a bit. I think that potentially attacking both of his minions into the Armor Smith, removing it from the board. He could play his own Flame Waker, then ping one of his Scientists. That puts up the Mirror Entity, because we know that Hot Form just has the 2 Mirror Entities in his deck, and Nilio at this point knows this as well.
Yeah, that would be a really powerful play here. He kind of knows that Nilio doesn't have those weapons. If there was a weapon, it would have happened already.
Right.
So hand is likely to be a lot of minions, and most of the minions in Warrior deck happen to be quite big. Let's see if he goes. I think he's going to do it.
Target.
Yep. So Hot Form, really heads up play there, putting Emilio in a position where he does play one of those large minions in his hand, will give Hot Form a copy. There's Fire Rorax from Emilio though. He really wanted that about 4 turns.
Yeah, Fire Rorax is really strong because he can actually kill the other mad scientist to deny follow-up mirror entity, and he can play Big Game Hunter, I guess. It's not great, but I guess.
It's still, I actually don't know that you'd want to play the Big Game Hunter here. I don't think you can afford to. There's just so much damage on your opponent's side of the board.
Yeah, but how do you ever come back if you don't do that?
It has to be some kind of brawl. Shields blocks, maybe, just exhaust Hot Form on minions. But like, if he plays the Big Game Hunter, he's looking at an additional 4 and he's down to 17. He also won't be able to use the armor up this turn, which also is valuable.
If he did attack Fire Rorax into the Mad Scientist, he would go 15, play the Big Game Hunter, his opponent with 9 damage on board. That would actually just be lethal with the Fireball from his hand. Though it's also possible that he just can't play around Fireball. It's possible that he is in a position where he needs to try and avoid that. He does choose to just take out the Mana Worm, currently the biggest threat.
And I guess this means he's not playing the Big Game Hunter.
Yeah.
Like
and in that case, you're just kind of hoping the Hot Form draws that mirror entity.
Yeah, Hot Form really close to lethal here. With
Mirror image, though, as we were saying before, that helps protect his minions from the weapon, but it also just does 2 damage with that Flame Waker. Is this lethal? It's at least close. I think he's 2 damage off lethal with this if he goes to the Fireball to the face.
That's right. 2 almost.
Chooses not to.
Saves the Fireball for later on. And, Nelio trying
can't
another
play anything.
minion.
Yeah.
No.
Nelio, this mirror entity is very powerful in this situation, preventing Nelio from developing any of those large minions that have been in his hand since the beginning of the game.
Shield Main is the only one that kind of zeroes out, but you're still dead to Fireball. And if you were playing around Fireball last turn, like you're feeling pretty depressed, at least.
This is a rough spot. I mean, Nelio's had a tough time of it this entire game. His opening hand is very bad. Didn't get that much better until Hot Form was very far.
Right. That's really what the mage needs. You just get a bit far ahead at the start, get some face damage in, and then at that stage of the game, the exact stage we're seeing right here, it becomes so difficult to play around every possibility that the mage might have, even like one card option on Fire.
I don't think there's any play for Nelio to survive anymore, considering the Fireball in Hot Form's hand.
Yeah, I think there are exactly 0 plays available.
I think his best play, given what he knows, is to play the Shield Main.
The only play.
Right. But he is going to find out that there's a Fireball waiting for him in Hot Form's hand, and we are going to... Oh, and there's another one.
Double Fireballs.
When it rains, it pours. Fire, at least.
Should he have used the one he drew from the top to maybe try to tilt his opponent a little bit?
That is a little bit of psychology that does matter in these best of 5 series. You can get your opponent a little bit rattled. Oh, he got lucky, he drew the Fireball. It's the sort of thing that, again, some players can throw them off their game.
All right, well, Hot Form grabs his first win against Nelio from the Asia-Pacific region. So as we mentioned, every region except the Americas has had 2 players qualify already. So on one hand, you know, we kind of want to see a bit of a balance at BlizzCon, which might be achieved if Hot Form and Purple end up qualifying through. But if any of their opponents take the game over them, the Asia-Pacific will actually have the most qualified players for the BlizzCon finals.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of players coming into this were saying they felt like Europe and North America were the strongest regions, but there was a lot of question marks in the air about the strength of China and Asia-Pacific because they don't really get an opportunity to play in as many tournaments that at least we in the Western scene have an opportunity to watch. But they have shown that they have a lot of very strong players.
Yeah, not many players actually know how good these Asia-Pacific players are. Now we've seen it over and over again. They are the key players.
Just last year, we saw Titular Celestial make it all the way to the finals of BlizzCon, where he eventually lost to Fireball.
Yep, and this tournament alone has reminded that is still the case. So on that note, let's just hear a few more thoughts from Nelio to better understand the situation.
At first, my family didn't believe that my trip was paid by Blizzard. Like, they didn't believe that someone paid me to travel around the world to play Hearthstone. They believe that I was just lying, to play more Hearthstone. Like, I just do whatever I want, and Hearthstone is what I want to do and what I'm doing here at BlizzCon. I want to win like a big tournament. Like I'm not interested in like small tournament. I want to win big tournaments like BlizzCon.
Nelio hoping to make his way to BlizzCon next week, but he's having to win 3 games in a row.
And the matches here are really polarizing. You have the Rogue, you know, quite good against the Paladin, and the Hunter, I think, very bad against the Warrior. They have the Druid, the way that these matchups go down is going to dictate the results really heavily.
Yeah. Hotform previously was really hoping to dodge that Warrior deck with his Rogue. He still has to win with that Rogue, so he I believe, mostly wanted to play it against the Hunter, if I recall correctly, was where he felt like his best matchup was, or perhaps this this Paladin deck. But he goes with his Druid for this game.
And it is against Paladin, so it seems like it's a favorable matchup for Nelio rather than Hotform. Whereas if the Rogue was against the Paladin, it had a much higher chance to beat the Paladin, and then eventually the Warrior had to beat the Druid, which was slightly problematic. Even more so now that we noticed that Harrison Jones is part of the Druid list.
Yeah, we've seen a few Harrison Jones in this tournament, but they haven't been all that effective in general. And here Hotform does have it, but it's not even an obvious decision to keep it in the starting hand because it's so important to find those extra mana cards.
One of the issues playing against the Secret Paladin deck specifically is that you need to deal with their early aggression. A card like Harrison Jones is a powerful card to remove something like True Silver Champion or the Ashbringer from Tyrion Vordring, but against the Secret Paladin decks, you can just fall so far behind in the early turns of the game because of their aggression that even that marginal advantage is just not enough to win.
You can even just fall so far behind from the Mysterious Challenger.
Right.
The main difference between the Secret Paladin and just a regular mid-range type of Paladin deck is mid-range Paladin just plays usually one thing at a time. Here's something. Here's another thing. And if that thing's a True Silver, then Harrison Jones is spectacular. But when it comes to the Secret Paladin, it's like, here's 6 things. So Harrison Jones just doesn't really keep up with all the little things you have to deal with.
Yeah, a dreadful hand from Hotform here. That big game hunter might be valuable later on if there's something like Avenge landing on the Mysterious Challenger. But for now, the only playable card seems to be the Innervate. And there's nothing to Innervate.
He could Innervate at the big game hunter.
He could.
Probably won't be a play that we see, but
I don't think that's even impossible. We know that Hotform is running double Big Game Hunter in his deck, which I think actually helps him against the Mysterious Challenger issue. If he's able to clear up the board going into turn 6, Big Game Hunter is the most valuable card you can have because it triggers, the Avenge triggers on the Mysterious Challenger after it get down.
Yeah, if you, that's the key though. If you're able to keep them to having a clear board when they do play the Challenger, because oh, and that's a pretty strong draw from Hotform there. He needed something, and he finds the piloted Shredder. So that's going to allow him to be the one who is ahead on the board.
Yeah, pretty nice draw there for Hotform. Wildcard would have also been great, but having something to play here over the hero power is excellent.
Yeah, you kind of want to activate your Avenge with the Muster for Battle, but if you do, you delay your Mysterious Challenger by 1 turn. And Mysterious Challenger, the earlier it's played, the more insane it is. So it's really a tough decision here, as the coin can represent so much win potential in this matchup.
Yep, it's likely he's going to hold on for the coin, for the Challenger. Here, Shielded Minibot, yeah, I mean, why not? That's often the best possible turn 2 that you can make. Nelio, normally when we see players take their time like this, they might be seriously considering the Monster for Battle, but in Nelio's case, we have seen him take a long time and then end up with the obvious play anyway.
Yeah, the Shielded Minibot makes it so you can Muster for Battle and use that to finish off the Shredder next turn, and that's unlikely to be punished. It's just against the Druid, you never know for sure.
So Force of Nature, a second copy, certainly not what Hotform is looking for here, but
no, not at all.
He is able to get this Minibot off the board, and he wants to do this before there's a second minion because it's likely that that secret is something like Avenge.
That was a pretty aggressive play. We have to keep in mind that Nelio, alongside most of the players from the Asia region, are running double Redemption.
Yeah.
So the chance that you play a Redemption to go into a Shielded Minibot is very high, and if Redemption did come out here and he had the Muster,
Right.
It probably would have ended the game.
Yeah, Hotform would have been heavily punished for that, but he took his chances and it kind of worked out.
There are so many different situations that can come up given the variety of secrets the Paladin deck does play, that in many cases there's going to be a play that will punish you for whatever you do. So you just have to kind of figure it out, walk through it, and be like, okay, this is the specific line I'm going to take, and use the information you gain from the actions that you take in the game to try to sort things out.
Yep, Nelio once again burning some rope, goes for the Master for Battle, and like he has take out the shield, the Paladin Shredder here. See what pops out.
Oh, dear.
Well, that might not be that bad.
We have seen... Oh, well, look at Hotform's hand. That's pretty bad.
I think you can just Wild Growth here.
You can. It's an option.
I don't think it's a bad option.
There's not much else he can do.
I think you'd rather Wild Growth than have something that is not Lore Walker Cho in play.
Okay.
Yeah, kind of.
And here, with that Avenge that Nelio has up, Hotform is going to be punished if he does decide to hero power and kill one of those minions.
It looks like he's again taking that risk, though.
Well, no, he may just be going to the face.
I don't think so.
No, he does kill a minion. Okay.
Takes the chance that this time around it is going to be that Avenge. It's going to be a competitive spirit in that case. The attack would have worked out, but it happens to be the Avenge, and Nelio has that 4-3 on the board right now.
And now Nelio does have, he has that Wild Growth. He could Wild Growth and play Minibot this turn. Well, he can kill the Cho.
Oh, that's right.
Because
he
of
can
the
kill
Avenge,
the Cho and then
he can
Wild
kill
Growth.
Cho and then Wild Growth, which will enable him to play Mysterious Challenger without even using his coin next turn.
Yeah, that seems like easily the strongest play here.
Yeah, quite powerful indeed. Well, it's easy to predict the rope at this stage, I guess. Every single turn, Nelio has been considering his option for a long time.
I mean, it's definitely a variety of options he does have, particularly with the coin. I mean, he could choose to even just coin Lotheb this turn.
That just feels bad, because if you do that, you don't really have much of a power play next turn, while Wild Growth, Shield, and Minibot when you're ahead really is quite fine.
Well, he could potentially play Coghammer and Minibot next turn as well, so I like this
Base.
one.
He's got to keep the Cho around.
Okay, interesting. I think his thought Okay. I think his thought process here is that he thinks that if Hotform uses mana to continue Wild Growthing rather than actually playing things that impact the board, that he's going to be just ahead. And that one of Hotform's best ways to get back from this position is something like Force of Nature. And that would, with the Cho on the board, Force of Nature would give Nelio a Force of Nature, which would allow him to press his advantage.
Interesting decision to deal that 2 extra damage to the Cho. I kind of like it, because now it's easier for him on the following turns to get rid of it if he needs to.
Yeah,
absolutely.
If things go badly.
Yeah.
Well, I still think we're going to see the Mysterious Challenger here. It's hard to top that. And maybe even the Zombie Chow really doesn't seem too bad.
He'd have to use his coin for that, which would mean he'd have to clear Cho. He might just want to do that this turn, but I think given his line of play, he wants to leave that Cho in play and just give himself the opportunity to kill it later on if he so chooses.
Yeah.
I imagine that we may see him just clear off this this keeper and then just play Mysterious Challenger.
Yeah, I really think that he's going to keep the Cho around, since he chose to do it last turn.
All right, well, if we do see that play, the Big Game Hunter is going to have 50% chance of being very successful.
Yeah, if Hotform does choose to use his hero power attack, that would trigger the Noble Sacrifice that would come from the Mysterious Challenger and then the Avenge. And that could be the window that Hotform
The thing
needs to
is,
get back.
Nelio knows that Hotform has 2 Big Game Hunters.
Again,
Just give him the coin right back.
Not too worried about the Cho.
I think because he knows that Hotform has 2 Big Game Hunters, he's not worried about giving his opponent a coin, because it's really just more important that he doesn't get tempoed up by a BGH here. Having that extra target on the board makes that a little bit less likely.
Absolutely. The coin here also just gives the coin back to Nelio. He knows that it is difficult for Hotform to do anything to get rid of that Lore Master Cho in play, and leaving it there does mean that, again, those Force of Natures, Savage Roller, all of these cards, Hotform can play them, but Nelio would just get a copy.
Hotform getting and Darnassus Aspirant. Not exactly what he was looking for.
No, not quite.
And Hotform's hand looked bad earlier on. It looked even worse when that choke came down, and he is under a lot of pressure right now.
Yeah, he has to just hero power here and hope that the Avenge lands on that mysterious challenge to have some kind of like reasonable play with the big cap.
Yeah.
If it does, he's really not in that bad shape. We have to keep in mind he's at 25 and his opponent has Cho on the board. He's basically at 30. So if BGH can land, if the Avenge does go on the 6-6, that is the turn of the game that Hotform needs.
Yep.
No. Oh man, are we going to see a coin Force of Nature?
I believe we might. Oh, I think. I wonder if Hotform roped here. We saw a look of exasperation from Hotform.
Yeah. I think he might have missed another.
Yeah, that's one of the things playing in Secret Paladin, because of the animation times of the. Oh, and yes, he actually just totally missed his attack.
Man.
That was an absolute disaster of a turn for Hotform.
I think there's lethal now.
I think that might just be
lethal.
Yes, he's Force of Nature.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's 13, 19 in play, plus the...
19, 26.
Is he just not going to kill
it?
it?
2 over.
Just going for the extended VM.
All right, and Nelio.
Extended DM.
Nelio takes that game. And one of the things about a card like Lower Walker Cho, it creates these awkward situations that requires players to do things that are kind of out of their comfort zone, not necessarily things they've practiced. And there, Hotform had to work through everything and didn't quite have time to make his play once he reached his decision, thanks to the animation times of the sequence.
I mean, even if he did have the time to kill off the 6-6 there with a Force of Nature, yeah, he wouldn't have died that turn, but he was extremely far from winning. The only chance he really had was the big game Hunter being able to land on the Mysterious Challenger. If that happened, he was actually, challenging the board in a reasonable way. He may have had to burn Savage Roar to actually kill off his Lower Walker Cho, which could have ended very badly in a few turns afterwards.
Absolutely.
But not necessarily. I feel like if the big game Hunter came out, he could have won that game, and it wouldn't have been that unlikely.
Yeah, he definitely would have still had a chance, but it would have been tough. I would have still favored Nelio over Hotform in that situation, even if the Avenge landed on this challenger.
Yeah, it was a very rough spot. Nelio got off to an excellent start, and Hotform didn't quite have the start he needed.
All right, well, Nelio evens out the set. It is 1-1 with that victory. And we have a few more thoughts from our recent winner.
It was very exciting to compete in 2 qualifiers, Southeast Asia and APAC, because I like to travel a lot. And I also had an advantage because I was in the top 8 in Southeast Asia standing, so I had 2 buys. I just had to win a few games to get into Southeast Asia qualifier, and a few more games to get into APAC. So that was not challenging at all. That was very exciting for me.
And game 3 is underway. Now, Nelio got the better side of the matchup, I guess, mind game / RNG, because it is a combination of those two, I suppose. Will it happen again? Now it is even more polarizing with the Paladin out, as the Druid really wants to go against the Warrior and really does not want to go against the Hunter, while the Rogue wants to do the exact opposite. Actually, the Rogue kind of wanted to beat up the Paladin before it ended up grabbing that win. So the Rogue is in much worse of a spot than it was before the last match.
Yeah, certainly. And I was about to say, I expect Hotform to play his Rogue here, because if Hotform were to play his Druid, and Nelio managed to play his Warrior in 1, or played the Hunter in 1, that would mean that Hotform would have to beat the Warrior deck with his Rogue deck.
Which is not going to happen.
That's such a bad matchup for him.
So it is very reliant on this game here. Even though it is 1-1, if the Rogue loses, it'll have to go up against the Warrior and challenge extreme odds. But I think Hotform here is favored. Nelio is playing a fairly aggressive Hunter list. From what I remember, I think he was playing something like hybrid-ish Hunter.
Yeah, we do see that Argent Horse Rider in his hand, which is indicative of less of a mid-range build, more of a hybrid-style build, a little bit more aggressive than the Dr. Boom versions like we see Jab play.
Yeah. But the Rogue can certainly deal with that. If you get a good board clear, if you get a punishing backstab or SI7 opener, if you get like the right piece of the puzzle in the opening sequences of the game, the Rogue can just shut down the aggression in a very big way.
Yep, and Hotform did get the coin and the SI agent to start things off.
Nelio with Web Spinner, this is one of the more mid-rangey cards. But he has a pretty good opening here. Web spinner
He
into
has a good
creeper.
1-2-3, and if Vile Teacher comes down, Unleash goes for the win.
And the bow is pretty key as well because
in this matchup, yeah, it's one of the best cards.
Because the rogue deck does use cards like SI Agent to try to get ahead. The coin SI Agent turn 2 to kill something on Nelio's side of the board is one of Hotform's best reactions to an opening from Nelio. But that bow will be able to take that out, and he actually has a couple of minions that are not particularly great targets for that SI Agent.
So much so that he might just not do that.
It's true.
Like, would you really consider SI7ing a haunted creeper? I don't know.
That's
really something to think
I
about.
potentially kill a web spinner.
Good, but no, it seems so weak because it only gives the hunter more power. On the
It's
board.
true. Yeah, on the creeper certainly.
Yeah. Well, the draw B, that looked like a low-cost card. It is a Fan of Knives. That could be pretty good.
Where do you see these cards coming off? I only ever see them when they actually go into the hand field at the top.
Right on the corner, you see them flip around just a little bit. Yeah.
Oh, wow. I have not trained myself to look for that just yet, but maybe I'll learn someday.
Well, maybe my lack of sleep is just producing some hallucinations. Well, Mad Scientist seems like a stronger play than the Creeper from Nelio's side, but it is one that can be countered far more easily.
Yeah, I think if you're in Nelio's position, you're trying to think of, okay, well, what is the best thing that Hotform can do here? And one of the best things is that coin SI Agent. So I would not be surprised to see him play the Creeper, despite the Scientist being the more straightforwardly powerful play.
Yeah, it is more value in the creature, and you get the synergy with a secret for your bow next turn.
Yeah, so playing the Scientist here, even though the coin SI deals with the Scientist, the bow is the perfect answer to that agent.
Quickly.
So you think the Mad Scientist is better just because you can answer it?
I like the Scientist just because of the bow in his hand. If he didn't have the bow, then it wouldn't be quite as good.
We do see Hotform pick up a Preparation, which, while strong, not necessarily what he's looking for in this particular moment, he's going to use his coin SI Agent to remove the Mad Scientist.
This guy's
It still looks fine. Preparation is a card that often is very powerful in conjunction with spell damage, which he does have.
Yes.
He has in the form of the Blood Mage and in the form of the Azure Drake.
Nelio picking up an excellent play for his next turn with that piloted Shredder. I have to imagine we'll see the Eaglehorn Bow take down the SI Agent to maintain the board presence that Nelio was looking for.
Yep, seems fairly obvious. The weapon's still going to have another judge in it, so if there was another 3-drop coming out from Hotform like a Farseer or second agent, you could just deal with that as well. Pile this are perfect for the next turn.
And these players, they did face each other before. They've also certainly been watching each other's games, at least when they found out they were going to have a rematch, to be sure they know the contents of each deck. I don't quite recall exactly which traps Nelio was playing with when we saw him play earlier.
Yeah, it was quite a few days since then. I do recall there at least being freeze traps. I don't know if they were a mix of freeze traps, but we'll have to see. Overall, though, these players are fairly close. They're just kind of acquaintances in the world of Hearthstone. They have ran up against each other many times on ladder, and from that, they've talked a little bit about their strategies, and that kind of gives them a little bit more insight into what each one is playing. Now, the Hyenas is a really fun card. This is a card that in the early world of Hearthstone, people actually played this because you had so many disposable beasts, and now with Unleash in hand, that situation might arise again.
Yeah, it can be quite powerful. Rogue usually doesn't get all that many minions on the board unless there's a Violet Teacher spawning those 1/1 tokens.
But this turn, I have to imagine we'll see that Pilot Shredder come down. Shredder, one of the cards that has been responsible for at least something of a decline in the popularity of Rogue. The fact that there are sticky minions like the Shredder that are much more difficult for the Rogue to efficiently remove causes them some difficulty if they don't have a card like Sap to just bounce it back to the hand.
Yeah, I remember when Druid was dominating Control Warrior, it was largely because you could Spectral Knight and the Warrior would have to take 12 damage removing it.
Spectral Knight was great.
That's basically what Shredder does most of the time.
It's been a while since we've seen Spectral Knights being played.
Sadly. That was a cool card.
I loved me a Spectral Knight. Alright, so Hotform does use the Blood Mage Thalnos to trigger the combo on Eviscerate, allow him to take out the Shredder,
very
and then Preparation Fan. He just wants to get the board clear, I believe.
Yeah, and I think he wants to pop the freeze trap on that 1/1 minion.
This creates an interesting situation where the Blood Mage is either going to deal with the bow or the freezing trap.
Oh, and we mentioned about how Doctor might not be in the deck, but there it is. It does seem to be like a fairly true list for mid-range Hunter.
Yeah, just a little bit of extra aggression from those Argent Horse Riders. I'm curious if we might see the Hyena into Unleash this turn.
This turn?
It clears that, protects your trap, and you get a 4-power minion in play.
Okay.
Yeah, it's not that bad, actually.
It's actually pretty good. It is vulnerable to a possible Azure Drake into backstab, unfortunately, for Nelio. But he's unlikely to find a great opportunity to use it.
You'd have to think if Prep Fan was used, that backstab doesn't exist in the hand.
That's a good point.
That is, yeah, that's definitely...
He's not going to unleash just yet. Going to use that bow to get rid of the Blood Mage. See what Hotcom picks up. Oil. A little bit early for an oil.
And then backstab.
There is the backstab. They were going to be punished for that play, I suppose.
Yep. And we do see the backstab take out the Hyena before it can grow bigger, feasting on the other dead beasts. Another kill command for Nelio. That's pretty powerful, but unfortunately he's going to just need to use it to remove this Azure Drake, I think.
Does he? He has the trap and a 7-mana Azure Drake in the hand of a Tempo Rogue. It's really worthless card.
I believe he does know that Hotform has Southsea Deckhand in his deck.
That is true.
So I think that he may want to protect his freezing trap using that kill command. He doesn't really have another play this turn either.
If he had another play, I think he would have seen the other play made, but you're absolutely right. I think kill command has to be played, but I do think he's actually considering just pointing it at the Rogue's face.
Yeah, but considering the rest of the hand, he does have that Dr. Boom for turn 7, so removing the spell power makes it more difficult for Hotform to deal with that. If, let's say, the Dr. Boom was an Arcane Golem, then he would also have more reach to end the game faster.
Yeah, Nelio has the tools with that Dr. Boom to play for a little bit of a longer game. And this also does allow him to use his hero power this turn, getting a little bit of extra damage, going to 24 for Hotform. Still have a reasonably healthy life total.
Yeah, I mean, just being 1/6 down is not really too big of a deal here.
Oh, it's an explosive trap. So that's even more reason that he would want to kill that Azure Drake.
Yeah, that is the decisive reason. And that may actually have been what glued Hotform in. Though kind of artificially, like we know kill command was basically the only he could play. But on Hotform's side of the board, he's like, wow, he really tried to struggle to defeat my Azure Drake. That must not be a freeze trap.
There's also very little cost to attacking with his weapon there. He's going to want to re-weapon anyway in a future turn.
Yeah.
But Nelio, this Dr. Boom doesn't look quite as exciting now that the Azure Drake is down on the board. But still probably his best play. That second Unleash the Hounds, not a card he's looking for here. One of the weak cards in this matchup.
Well, Dr. Broom is not only just a good 7-drop, it would also be a good 8-drop, and it's also a big creature that that does extremely well against Rogue, as sapping it really just feels very bad.
Man.
So, I mean, I can't see why there's much thought when it comes to this play. He definitely just might be doing his thing where he thinks about future possibilities.
Yeah, he has been taking his time on pretty much every turn. This no different. Boom comes down with his boom bots.
Okay, can we see a big Blade Flurry here? Could that be the play?
He could. He could trade the Drake into the Boom, make the weapon, attack into the Creeper, and get a full clear. What other options does he have? He could go for Sap on the Boom, but yeah, it doesn't feel good. Those Boom bots are so annoying, and they might take out the potential low tap and the Drake.
Sometimes they only do 2 damage pop, but sometimes it's 10.
I mean, there is Azure Drake's on the board, the natural enemy of the Boom bot. And Lothar.
I guess that means we're gonna see the Sap.
Yeah, I imagine if we do see Lothar, we will also see Sap.
This might really be a disaster here.
It's a little bit of a dangerous line of play, though. It is potentially setting up for. It could be lethal next turn, I believe.
Yeah, depending on the Boom bots.
If Hotform is able to keep both these minions in play.
Good, that's that. Even though it's 3-face, which seems kind of bad.
Hotform with his hands together.
He's very happy about that.
Please no. Oh, the natural predator of the Azure Drake comes and defeats it.
Yeah, Nelio's very relieved there. He knew some trouble was coming his way next turn.
There is the Argent Horse Rider that Nelio picked up. He would have a removal option even if that Azure deck had survived, but definitely much more efficient for him to just play this Dr. Boom again this turn.
Absolutely.
But if Hot Form does have Tinker Blade Flurry next turn with this Lothab, that's not lethal, is it?
No, I
It's
think
8
he needs to pick up
plus
another Tinker Oil.
either another oil or would a deadly poison be enough?
Another oil. He wouldn't be able to cast another oil because he needs to get a new weapon
Right.
as well.
Oh, I see, yes.
So it would be 1 mana off from playing 2 oils. Deadly poison, prep, oil, flurry. That's quite a bit of damage. But is it enough?
And Shredder.
Well, Dr. Boom back for round 2.
And this is what we were saying, that the difficulty in dealing with Dr. Boom for these rogue decks. Those Boom bots, they did a lot of work. They killed that Azure Drake. And now Hot Form uses his preparation for Sprint. He may be looking for perhaps another copy of Sap to get Dr. Boom down back again. Deckhand.
Is there a way to even deal with the Boom? He could oil here without the weapon for the trade for the Boom. But that's
I think it might be even simpler than that. I think you could weapon up, play a Deadly Poison, and just Southsea and Lothab into Dr. Boom. But that makes it so your oil next turn is going to be a lot weaker.
Yeah, and then he won't have any chance to lethal Nelio.
On the flip side, I believe Nelio might have a kill here even with bad Boombot RNG, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, the problem from the perspective of the rogue is that you can't just be looking to deal with what your opponent plays. You have to be looking to close the game because you're using your health total as a resource, and your opponent is playing Hunter and has Steady Shot, which puts you on a clock.
Yeah, Hot Form does make the play that is going to keep him
And
in
there's
the game.
a big cat.
Yeah. A really big cat.
So Nelio counting out what sort of damage he has and what the next few turns are going to look like, I imagine. I would not be surprised to see. Well, it's interesting. The big cat seems good, but
it doesn't do anything. Just all face, so the Boombots
it doesn't do anything right
threaten
now.
lethal off a Blade Flurry.
So the damage from those, he can do 3 if he plays the Horse Rider and uses his hero power. That's 4, 5, 6, 7, putting Hot Form down to, is it?
Yeah,
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Where's the 12?
The kill command phase.
Oh, well, I'm not saying including that.
You have to include that.
Well, I'm just kind of for the next turn as well. If he had to attack again with anything.
I think I like that play the most. I think I like just getting the rogue down so low that you make him sweat if he plans on Blade Flurrying the Boombots.
He does just go with the Highman and the Horse Rider. So the Horse Rider not only does the 2 damage that Steady Shot would do this turn, but also puts a body into play that your opponent has to deal with as well.
Yeah, the Highman quite powerful, and Nelio already saw 1 Sap go.
Wow, Sap.
But
very good draw.
Oh, it's the most important draw for him.
Yeah, that Sap is going to at least stave off Scar for 1 more turn. But
it's like, how do you stay alive here? I mean, you have the kill command, you have the unleash. I mean, he's going for Violet. This is just suicide here.
The Violet Teacher from Hot Form side looks like what he wants to do in order to get a board presence, but we know those 2 copies of Unleash the Hound are really going to punish him.
Yeah, that's likely to be it, no matter where the Boom was. But if the Boom was killed a 1/1, actually, that would have got away from
that actually could end up going well for Hot Form.
Right, because it would deny more damage from the Unleash the Hounds.
I think there's a reasonable chance we see him attack into the Spider to try and clear.
Oh yeah, absolutely. You don't want to leave those 1/1s behind.
Yeah.
But this is leaving Hot Form at very, very low health against Unleash and Kill Command.
Boombots just have to kill those 1/1s.
We see Nelio. Oh, we see a little pump of the fist from Nelio. I think Davis may have lived.
I think no matter.
Yeah, that is going to be it. So Unleash, Kill Command. Even just with just the Unleash Kill Command, that's enough.
Yeah. And that was a huge game. I mean, Rogue, I think, was slightly favored to win that game, but it just had to win the game because in Conquest format, Nelio only has the Warrior left. In Hot Form, not only has to beat that with a Druid, which is pretty likely, but he has to do so with a Rogue deck that we just saw, which is extremely unlikely.
Yeah, this is a pivotal game in this match. Hot Form has been saying he really wants to dodge that Warrior with his Rogue, but that's the only deck Nelio has left.
Yeah. No, he has to play that matchup. But it is possible that Nelio is going to draw all of his expensive legendaries once again, like he did in Game 1.
I suppose so. Nelio is basically on match point here. On the line is a spot for the BlizzCon finals, and also trumping the other regions by putting up that third player from the Asia Pacific on the finals.
And right now, there are no representatives of the Americas region who will be playing on the stage at BlizzCon. If Hot Form loses, it's all down to purple in the next match.
Yeah, it's going to be really tough though. But excited to see if Hot Form chooses to take the easy or the hard matchup first. What do you guys think?
I think from Hot Form perspective, I would imagine that he may go with the Rogue first. Just he knows he has to win with both. He just wants to go in and not necessarily put himself under any undue stress of, okay, maybe I could win this, but he has to get that out of the way in order to win at all.
Right. He could try to get momentum on his side, though. Thinking that Druid win first, or likely Druid win. It's not an automatic win, obviously.
Of course.
And some players even argue that it's not that good for the Druid.
Well, I don't know if momentum matters for much because he still has to win with that Rogue, and that's really the big hurdle.
Yeah, that's serious.
That is the big hurdle. Anyway, guys, we will get back to our games shortly, but before that, let's hear about Hot Form and what motivates him to play, what he'll do if he'll win.
So there are things that tend to take me away from pro gaming. I did the law school application and I did pretty well on that, but I've decided to take a year in between. That feels like a really big commitment in my life, and this is a lot of fun. I've enjoyed gaming my entire life, so I want to try this out, experience the world a bit first before I make that big of a decision. I do have plans for the money if I win, not all of it of course, but I want to take a vacation for sure. I think vacation I'm really interested right now is going to Australia. I could just picture like renting a Jeep and kind of driving through the outback with some of my friends. I think that would be such a great experience, so I would love to use the money towards that type of vacation.
All right, well, it is match point for Neilio, and Hot Form is the one with the far bigger hurdle ahead.
It's true. He not only has to win 2 games in a row, but has to do one of them in a very, very bad matchup. I believe he estimated his chances of winning the matchup at less than 20%.
Wow, that's really low. I didn't think it's that bad.
That was what he himself said the other night when we were talking to him about his strategy initially going into the matchup with Neilio. And he felt like it was such a bad matchup that it was crucial that he dodged it in the next selection phase. And now there's no way he can. He has to get through that warrior.
Yeah, but I think the biggest thing in that matchup is whether or not the warrior draws the sufficient amount of weapons. Because if the even Fire War Axe gets easily 2 for 1, kills the agent, kills the front half of the Shredder, but if there's no weapons to be found, those early minions might chip up enough to be able to end the game before we get to those expensive warrior legendaries.
There's the flip side of that. There could just be the 4-weapon draw, which turns out to be maybe even worse than the no-weapon draw.
Well, in this matchup, it's actually not clear that that's true, because
there's so few minions, right?
Right, the Rogue deck doesn't have that many minions and so much chef, but it looks like Hot Form does choose to go with his Druid deck. He wants to, perhaps get on the board here, get a little bit of momentum, and try to go into his final game, at least having won the last one.
I believe this is extremely one-sided for the Druid. Maybe even so as it is in reverse with the Rogue. Not just because it's Druid, which is traditionally good, but we have to remember Hot Form is playing a double BGH Harrison Jones Druid here.
It's true.
He's really, really teched against an already good matchup.
Yeah, but I also tend to favor the Druid, but I have actually heard some players, like KitKats who is known for his warrior gameplay, actually favors the warrior over the Druid because of the recent expansion that gave cards like Bash to the warrior.
Yeah, Bash is a huge deal. Bash is a card that allows you to deal with a card like Piloted Shredder, a card like Darnassus Aspirant, and also Darnassus Aspirant, while it makes the deck stronger in a lot of matchups, it's not actually necessarily that good against Warrior because it makes cards like Fiery War Axe that otherwise weren't particularly strong against the Druid deck a very, very good card.
All right, well, Neilio is certainly very happy with that opening hand, but Hot Form's is pretty good as well. He's just missing that big threat that he is likely to play on turn 3.
We see a little sigh from Hot Form as we once again get into Neilio's rope on turn 1. He's making the most use of the time he has available. And we've talked about this a little bit before. It's not that Neilio has a particularly difficult decision this turn. He's not debating, okay, should I coin Armor Up, should I coin Armor Smith? He only has the 75 seconds each turn. He's planning out his turns in advance. He's thinking, okay, if this happens, I want to do this, and ensuring that his game plan moving forward.
Well, you talk about how he actually has options to do things in this turn 1, but in his opening Warrior game against the Mage, he went first. He literally doesn't have a 1-drop in his deck.
Right.
And Hot Form was kind of giggling a little bit like, what's going on? Realizing that fact.
I also think that it's possible that one reason why Nilio is taking such a long time is to calm down his nerves, because we have seen him react fairly strongly to some situations that have been unfortunate for him.
So that Darnassus Aspirant for Hot Form, still nothing to follow up. Nilio, he has a couple of options here, actually. That Bash is a card that he could choose to play this turn with the coin to potentially keep Hot Form off of that mana acceleration.
I don't think it's that important. I think what's really important is that you get the Death Spite out as early as possible because it activates not only the Execute, but the Acolyte as well.
Definitely. If I were in Nilio's shoes, I'd probably just play the Armorsmith this turn.
I would just not coin this turn. That's the only requirement
yes,
for me.
Coin is a very good card in this. The way that this dynamic works out, the Death Spite, more powerful when it can come down earlier and is more likely to kill the minions that are in play.
I wouldn't hate it though, like coining out the Bash here. We can see that there's nothing coming. Nothing bad is going to happen if he leaves up the Aspirant. But Druid having that extra mana crystal, it can be threatening. Turn 3, Piloted Shredder, not something you want to see.
And Dr. Boom, that's not something that Hot Form can play this turn.
It's going to be 1 man off 2 turns in a row now.
Yeah, looks like it. Unless he picks up a second inner raid.
So Hot Form would have loved for that to be perhaps Emperor Tharson. But
I think we're probably going to see a Wrath for 1. There's not many minions that are important and die to Wrath in this deck, and you often just need a cycle, especially in this case where you don't really have anything to play if something goes wrong next turn.
I really like that. Considering his hand too, he wants to get to his lords as soon as possible. He does go for a Wrath for the 3 instead.
Oh, wow.
That is a bit surprising to me.
Yeah, I'm pretty surprised to see the Wrath for 3 rather than Wrath for 1 and just attack with both things. Attack with his hero power and his Aspirant.
Yeah,
I'm actually surprised enough that I wouldn't mind just a Bash here.
I mean, this looks to Nilio like maybe Hot Form's trying really hard to protect this Aspirant from any sort of removal, including Execute, because that's really the reason you'd make that play.
Right.
I mean, you would be giving your opponent armor for Shield Slam, which is another possible reason that you wouldn't want to just throw all of that into the Armorsmith there.
Yep. Drawing that second Bash, I think it makes it more likely that he's just going to bash that minion here to keep that coin for maybe to play one of those big legendaries that he will eventually draw, like Ysera for turn 8. It's quite huge.
Yeah, the Druid, despite Big Game Hunter, has a little bit of difficulty dealing with some of those big minions in the Warrior deck, and the ability to get something like down like Justicar Trueheart early and be able to keep getting your armor total up is a big deal. So now Hot Form down to 4 mana, so Innervate again can't play Dr. Boom or Ancient of Glories. This is... Oh, and you see Nilio literally just pump his fists here as Hot Form does nothing but hero power.
Very well in this.
He is in a
what is
tremendous
supposed to be a
position.
bad matchup.
Hot Form has some powerful plays for later on, but turn 4 hero power pass, that is truly dreadful.
Yeah, I mean, we've seen the wipe face on turn 4 a few times in this tournament. Why didn't it happen there?
I imagine he may be looking for another option for Swiper.
Oh, well, we see just that there. Hot form with considerably more options.
Thanks to Emperor Tharson. Oh dear.
What a
Swipe
turn.
and Azure Drake takes out Nelio's entire board. That tempo he was looking for is now gone. And then Harrison Jones, not a card that's very good against the Druid deck.
Very good against the Rogue deck,
You
by the
cannot,
way.
you cannot Harrison Jones your
Maybe
opponent's
that's-
claw. We'll see Deathspite take this out and then perhaps Acolyte of Pain come down. But now this game, which not long ago looked to be heavily in Nelio's favor, is kind of slipping away from him.
Absolutely.
I really don't like the Acolyte drop, though. I feel you need that card to actually get something more relevant.
Yeah, so he could wait with it, just in case there is a Keeper of the Crow waiting. The Deathspite likely to swing again on the following turn, and then you can secure the extra draw with the Acolyte.
But at the same time, given his opponent's use of Emperor Tharson, I don't know that he wants to... If his opponent did play Keeper the next turn, that significantly reduces the amount of options that he has, and I think that Nelio is going to be looking for more possible tools himself, maybe expensive card, but he does choose to save the Acolyte for next turn. Suppose he does with the Execute, so he's guaranteed to have at least some sort of play to go along with the Acolyte as well.
It's true.
Our Ancient of War comes down. The reason we see big taunts go into the second charge of a Deathspite is because it kind of it denies the residual Execute play. Here, if he wants to execute that Ancient of War, he actually just has to take 5 damage by attacking
Although
into it.
Nelio does have the second copy of Deathspite or the Fiery Works, which he could play to replace his Deathspite, which also would trigger the Death Rattle and allow him to execute
actually
without
is
taking
possible.
damage.
He could Acolyte, then play the other's Deathspite, then execute to save himself 5. But is a charge of Deathspite worth 5 HP and a potential tempo loss, because otherwise he could gain something that he could play with the Acolyte?
It's not even really a charge of Deathspite, because you would attack with the Deathspite that's already in play.
I actually like that a lot, especially, or like another reason for that is that if there was a Harrison Jones in Hot Form's hand, it would have most likely come down on the previous turn. So
he could even play Acolyte and either the Deathspite or the War Axe. Yeah, it looks like he's going with exactly that play, playing the Deathspite to trigger the Death Rattle of his original Deathspite, which allows him to draw a card of Acolyte of Pain and trigger the Execute to kill the Ancient of War without actually having to attack into it. So really heads up play from Nelio.
And no respect for Harrison Jones there.
no, because of that, Deathspite is the best card he can use it on, and Hot Form didn't use it on the previous Deathspite, and there was only one card draw that happened after that.
All right, well, Nelio he wants to find Brawl now. What he's looking for here against this board.
It's a pretty good one, too.
It's okay, but I mean, look at Hot Form's hand. He has Force of Nature plus Savage Roar. This board is threatening to do so much damage, and
The thing is that, like, Nelio's drawn 2 cards here, and that's a really big deal.
well, he drew 2 cards thanks to that hitting his Acolyte. He only has the 1 charge, or the 2 charges left in the Deathspite, so he wouldn't be able to
He didn't
actually
attack
activate.
face
He
with
chose
Deathspite.
not to attack last turn.
Yep, picks up a shield block, but he's still in so much trouble. What is the card that he would have hoped to get if we used
Shield
Shield
Slam.
The thing is, Shield Slam would be good.
Big Game Hunter?
Even if he did find something like Brawl, I think he's actually still in a lot of trouble. Those
Could
3
just
minions.
Shield Maiden up so he has another turn left in this game.
All right, so Nelio is at 32 health, which sounds like a lot, but Hot Form has...
That's 10,
That's enough.
10
yeah.
plus 6.
I believe that's actually
plus
enough.
14.
Yeah.
Oh, and the Druid of the Claw plus another 6. That's like that's like 34, I think.
I think he's
Got
a mana short of the Druid of the
one
Claw.
mana short, but it is still enough.
Oh,
I
is
think,
Oh,
I
yeah.
believe Force of Nature plus Savage Roar is 14, the board is 10, another 6.
16, so it's gonna be-
16, so 30.
Oh, so he's 1 damage off. It's actually 1 off.
Yeah. And then Alistraza comes down.
The boom could do it.
Yeah, the
I don't know if we
build
got our
up
math
could
right.
close the
16
gap.
plus 14.
How much
plus,
is that?
It's 31, I believe. I believe this is 31 damage. So I believe he is actually 1 damage off lethal.
Yeah, he is. He could get a boombot to face 4. So that would do it.
That's a little optimistic, I think.
But I mean, in case that it doesn't go to face, you can just use a Treant on the Shield Maiden to finish it off. Wow.
Boombot, do it! Do it! No lead.
And 1 damage off lethal for Hot Form. He still has a really impressive board here. That Alistraza has to come down.
Yeah.
But even then, look at Hotform's board. He has the Dr. Boom and a bunch of damage and that Druid Claw in his hand. He's still, despite not quite having lethal, still
he's still
in a really good spot here.
Particularly because BGH just challenges Alistraza. Challenges more than the entire turn, really.
Yeah, I mean, with the Dr. Boom there, the Shield Maiden, even with the weapon, can't take out Dr. Boom.
No, it'll have to take out the 2/3.
Without attacking into Dr. Boom directly, which is just 7 damage. It's so much.
I guess you would consider just going face with the 5, but that doesn't feel too great either. There is another consideration here. If perhaps you play the Gromash and armor up, or play the Armor Smith.
Whoa.
That's
Gromash Armor Smith.
risky.
Grom Armor Smith attack with a weapon.
Yeah.
It's an interesting play. So risky though.
Yeah, I can't really see. All right, so yeah, Nilio does find the.
He has lethal here with a Boombot.
Once again,
potential Boombot lethal.
Savage Roar would make it an actual lethal, as would Force of Nature.
Well, how about another wild
Revise, add on.
Well, another try at either of those cards is going to be a fun experiment here.
See if he gets it.
Oh, there's Savage Roar.
Wow, there he
it
goes.
is.
Yeah.
So Cat comes down. Cat is for fight, innervate, Savage Roar, and that is lethal damage for Hotform, who forces a game 5 against Nilio.
I believe Hotform did about 50 damage over the course of 2 turns.
Damage, yeah. Nilio was at 32, and then he was suddenly at 1, and then he was at 15, then he was dead. That really showcases the explosive power of the combo Druid deck.
All right, well, the dreams are still alive for both players, though more vividly for Nilio here, as he has the Control Warrior against the Rogue. Now, Control Warrior is normally just going to do very well against any Rogue deck. On one hand, you can just armor up, and often in that game, you can just fatigue out the Rogue. Often you can just burn through every single card in the Rogue deck before they
actually,
kill you.
as the Warrior player, you don't even have to worry about the Rogue's life total all that much. You're not really trying to kill the Rogue quickly. All you need to do is keep removing every single minion on the board, and that way the Rogue will eventually only have spells.
The power of Rogue really lies in their ability to take a tempo advantage against minion-based strategies with things like Backstab, things like SI Agent. Warrior doesn't care about that. Warrior cares about killing what you have and just staying alive until it dominates the board with big things.
The Warrior simply has more removal than the Rogue has minions.
And just the hero power, armor up, it eventually puts the Warrior out of range, especially with Justicar Trueheart and Shield Maiden and Shield Block. That big oil damage combo that we've seen win so many games this weekend, it just is not effective against Warrior.
Yep, quite a match yet to come. I'm sure you guys have many opinions about the players in the tournament, but we had a chance to ask Hotform what he thought about some of his competition.
The friendliness of the other players, I think, would be the most surprising part. The other players, although we're opponents, it feels really like comrades. When you're out there, you know, you're just hanging out, waiting for things to happen, you're discussing strategies, and you're a little guarded about your own tech choices and those kinds of things, but when you're just there hanging out, it feels really like you're with a bunch of friends. So I think that was surprising to me. I thought some people would be more tense about it, but it's a really great feeling the way it worked out.
The final game of this match. One player moves through to the BlizzCon finals. Well, the other one goes to BlizzCon too, but doesn't quite get to play on the same level.
Yeah, and will Hotform be able to become the first representative of the Americas region, or will Nilio move on to be the third representative of APAC? Let us know on Twitter there with hashtags AMWin or APACWin. And yeah, I mean, Hotform has said that he thinks it's going to be a very tough game going in.
Yeah, I mean, these players, again, they played against each other in their opening game, and Hotform ended up triumphing, but it was a very close 3-2, and here we are again in the similar spot where it is a 2-2 score. But Nilio has the match advantage, even though this Warrior deck has failed to produce a win in 2 tries now. In fact, it's been his only losing deck. It seems like it's pretty hard to go 0-3.
This is the match where his Warrior deck is at its strongest, because it really just interacts with the Rogue deck in a way that the Rogue deck is hoping to avoid. So Hotform, Violet Teacher, one of the cards that can actually generate a reasonable number of minions that can give him a strong start that he needs to put pressure on the warrior.
One thing we actually haven't seen from Nilio's warrior deck is a whirlwind effect outside of the Death Spite. Often warrior decks do include a whirlwind, or more recently Revenge.
Has been popular, yes.
Just somewhat popular. But we have not seen it in Nilio's list, and that repetitive damage of the 1/1s isn't as easy to control for this type of deck if that's the case, because you have the weapon hits, you have the shield slams, you have the executes, but these are not things you really want to use on 1/1 creatures that can just grind you down.
He does have Brawl and he does have Baron Geddon, but those are a bit slower, so it's possible that if Hot Form is able to get out a quick Violet Teacher, that could be a road to victory.
Does he actually have Brawl?
I believe he does. I believe we've seen him cast Brawl. He may not. It's possible, but I thought I had. It's a very
We've seen it draw 0 times today.
Today, at least. Yeah, that's true.
On the first day, I'm not even sure we had an appearance, but that would be very weird if that is the case.
It would be surprising, because that is particularly if you are playing Control Warrior in a world you expect decks like Secret Paladin. It's one of your strongest cards. We do see the Baron Geddon in Nilio's opening hand, much like in the first game where we saw Baron Geddon among many other expensive legendaries.
Right, but in this hand, at least you have some things that you can play. Armor Smith on 2, while it doesn't have as much of an impact as it does against more aggressive decks with smaller minions with far less health, it's still a presence, and he continues that presence with the Acolyte. He has the Bash to often trigger against one of the 3 or 4 drop creatures in the Rogue deck. We mentioned that most of the Rogue creatures are vulnerable to that 3 damage breakpoint, with the SI7 being vulnerable, with the Shredder being vulnerable. But really, it's going to be about this Violet Teacher. I think if you can pick up a prep and maybe some other cards you can play alongside it, things can get a little bit out of control.
Yeah, the hand is not looking too bad for Hot Form. He does have an Azure Drake. That low tap can also be a key moment in the game. If he manages to get some kind of board going to go for that low tap to prevent the brawl.
Yeah, being able to generate a board and then protect it with low tap against removal effects is one of Hot Form's strongest roads to victory. Nilio, again, sort of in the tank on turn 2. I imagine we'll see him come out eventually and play this Armor Smith, but...
Well, the thing is, the Armor Smith doesn't actually challenge a single creature in the Rogue deck.
It's true.
But on the other, he might just be saving it for a turn where he can trigger Whirlwind effects to get additional value out of the armor. So even if he does an Armor Smith here, I think that is a very fair way of playing.
Certainly, he could just choose to Armor Up. The health gain from Armor Up and being able to save your Armor Smith for later are both pretty relevant in this game. Yeah, Armor Smith does come down, and even just getting a little bit of damage on the Rogue can be relevant. They do, as we were saying, use their life total as a resource. While it's not a matchup where it generally comes down to that sort of thing, having the ability to pressure them is still valuable.
Yeah, Eviscerate a reasonable card to draw here. Not too bad. It allows him to remove some early threats from Nilio's side.
Hot Form attacking into the Armor Smith, he does have that Deadly Poison in his hand. So
yeah, most likely he's going to re-weapon Deadly Poison and go for the kill on the Armor Smith. And Nilio, realizing this, might choose not to Acolyte of Pain. But now that he's got a second one, he's probably going to choose the Acolyte of Pain.
Yeah, definitely. You don't want to hold on to 2 Acolytes in your hand.
Yeah. Also, with that Armor Smith in play, killing the Acolytes not only allows Nilio to dig to further cards, but it does get him a little bit of armor each time they do take damage.
And you absorb another 3 damage.
Yeah. And in a matchup where the Rogue deck does have a pretty limited amount of damage that it can deal, if you're able to remove its minions, that can add up and be very important.
Nilio once again going down to the rope before making his play. He could choose the Acolyte on the middle or the one on the right side.
Which do you think he'll play?
I think he's going to play the one from the middle.
All right. And he does. Good call.
Yes. Speak to me.
All right. Well,
And,
there goes Shredder, which is not too bad. You might be able to play that next turn and save a higher mana turn for a Violet Teacher play.
The Shredder, one of the best cards against Warrior, because even though the weapon deals with the Shredder, but the Shredder still gets that 9 damage or so in, depending on what pops out of it.
I really like the kill on the Armor Smith. We kind of predict that he'd kill the Acolyte. I think we've just been seeing too much Patron Warrior in the last few weeks. The Acolyte is not as threatening of a card in the control type of Warrior because of the lack of self-damage effects on your own minions. And leaving the Acolyte up Actually, when you see a warrior play an acolyte that seems vulnerable, often they're doing that because they have to. So if you don't give them a draw next turn, they might just have another bad turn. And I actually, like, the more I see this situation, the more clear it is that killing the Armor Smith ends up being the better route.
It is true that without additional activators like Inner Rage, like Whirlwind, these Acolytes are unlikely to get Nilio multiple cards, and by killing the Armor Smith first, he's able to also deny him additional armor from those minions.
It is possible to get punished by that if there was a Cruel Taskmaster in Nilio's hand, but I don't think I haven't even seen any Cruel Tasks from Nilio. Does he play that card?
We talked about seeing it.
I believe we have. I believe we've seen one.
I believe I have I've also seen it, but at the same time, there's been a few warrior decks.
We've watched a lot of games of warrior this week.
And down comes the piloted Shredder, and Nilio's still without a weapon.
Yeah, Bash is going to answer this very well. Slam, though, seems a bit clunky here.
Yeah.
I think what we'll probably see is Bash and Nilio hoping that a 2-health minion comes out.
No, he
or
wants a
2-3 rather. A 2-attack minion is what I meant.
2-1.
Yeah, 2-1 would be
2-1,
pretty
yeah.
good.
If a 2-1 comes out, if there's
Actually,
a...
I think he's quite happy slamming here just to cycle through his deck. I think a 1-3 might be ideal, actually.
So, the slam there, I think that keeping the slam to possibly use with the other Bash to kill something like an Azure Drake may be what he's looking to do.
I think this Bash might be a little bit stronger. Just use it first, because one very likely outcome is that 2-3, and in that case he could slam the 2-3 first and then use the Acolyte to finish it off.
So he gets the best of both worlds, really.
Actually, the best place to wait and then do that.
Yeah. Every time, as soon as the rope starts burning, he goes for his move.
And there's a 3-2, so not what Nilio was hoping for.
You might still go for the Bash here. Or the slam.
It's
Yeah,
possible.
Sorry.
Might do it, yeah.
Yes, looks like he wants to try to find an opportunity to get an extra card with that Acolyte. Removes that from the board.
I believe Azure Drake is going to hit the board here. Again, you have such nice plays with the Violet Teacher, but the more you wait, the higher the payout, but also the higher the risk. But considering it's such a bad matchup, I feel like the risk portion of this is fairly irrelevant. I think the only way you're winning is by taking risks.
Yeah, he is going for it here, and he just saw a slam and a Bash, no weapons, so he thinks that it might be even difficult for Hotform to remove that this right now.
Yeah.
It might be, but Shield Slam says otherwise.
Yeah, it's gonna do it.
Shield Slam and actually Geddon is going to counter the play quite a bit.
He can't get in this turn.
No, but next turn, the 1-1s that could start grinding down the Warriors' health pool are really not going to be able to accomplish that.
True.
Shield Slam fairly obvious here. He's still going to have 5 mana remaining, so we could see the shield block and armor up, or the Armor Smith maybe.
The Armor Smith is kind of nice to potentially challenge these 1-1s if he isn't certain to play the Baron Geddon next turn.
Also, he could just draw first with the Shield Slam if he's going to do the or the Shield Bash if he's going to do the Shield Slam and Armor Smith play.
How about just bashing that Violet Teacher right now in preparation for the Geddon for next turn?
That's not bad either.
It's reasonable, though. If your opponent does play a large minion, then you are sort of committed to playing the Baron Geddon and then potentially attack into it. Like if he plays low threat,
he might get into trouble for that.
Looks like he doesn't want to maximize the amount of armor he's going to get throughout the course of the game. He's probably already decided that he's going to try to fatigue the Rogue out, which, yeah, it's a viable strategy. Turns out to work a lot of the time.
Only 2 minions remaining for his hand right now.
And the backstab plus one of these minions able to take out the Armor Smith.
Makes the Geddon play a little less attractive too.
Yeah, this means that Baron Geddon is not super exciting. And this is a matchup where you'll often see that Grommash Health Scream just uses a removal effect. In many matchups, Grom is most effective as a finisher. You just do a big amount of burst damage when you damage it with something like a Death's Bite, Death Rattle. But against Rogue, again, you were just able to remove all of their threats and frequently just fatigue them out because they do have so many cards that are so low impact. They're strong tempo cards, but not strong value cards.
I really feel like you have to shield block here because if you get a Death's Bite, it's basically the nuts. The game is almost over.
Almost. And if he doesn't get it, the Shield Slam is still quite alright.
I wonder.
Certainly a reasonable option here. And again, he does have potentially that Grom to use on the Azure Drake if he does choose to wait on it.
I just feel if he gets into here, it can turn out to be a disaster. We know it will turn out to be a disaster.
It will not go well for him, it's true. So shield block, he finds a shield maiden, does just use the shield slam it, armor up. So now Nelio, his health is going way up, and Hot Form still just with a hand of pretty low impact cards. Another Azure Drake is a nice draw though. It does give him the ability to dig deeper into his deck to find more.
I feel like the Loatheb is stronger because if you Azure Drake, it can just die to a Death Bite.
It's true. It either does Death Bite or the 8 mana, it does have 4 health, so Grom would actually take it out quite easily.
Oh, that's Taskmaster.
Yeah. It does exist.
Yeah, wow. Confirmed.
Oh, it's a tough play though.
Shield Maiden armor up, maybe?
Yeah, I think I like the Shield Main armor up.
The Chromash doesn't seem to accomplish much here.
No, you need a little bit more mana for it to work.
So, once again, Nelio taking his time.
I imagine that he may actually even be saving that Baron Geddon to play alongside Bash to kill a larger minion in a single turn. He hasn't had a great opportunity to play it where it would dominate the board, and when you do get to 10 mana and you can play both of those at the same time, you're able to kill bigger minions at once.
He could have set that up earlier, as Savia's noted, against the Vile Teacher, and I kind of wonder how that line of play would have turned out. But he's still winning considerably, so I guess it's not.
He does choose just to play Baron.
Interesting.
Okay.
That is a dangerous play.
Well, this does leave Loatheb at a point where he will be able to potentially remove it with the Bash next turn.
I find that place slightly strange.
Actually, Hofram can start pushing for damage. He can do Southsea Deckhand. He can do Sap. He can do. Oh wow, even more things now.
I kind of feel like that was the opening that Hotform needed. Right now, he's finally going to have a big minion stick to the board, remove the threat from his opponent, and gonna extend his lead.
And we do see Eviscerate come down, so Hot Form doesn't want the Baron Gen to come back with that Sap. And 5 damage comes in.
Do you think the 2 from the Southsea Deckhand is much of a risk at this point?
I think that Hot Form may be a little bit worried about just extending too much into a brawl. It's generally not a card that's good in this matchup, and with the Tinker Sharpsword Oil in his hand, that Southsea Deckhand can represent a lot of burst damage if he needs it.
Probably going to keep it for the combination with the oil.
And there's Death Bite. An actual fist pump from Nelio. He's like, finally, the best card in my deck.
Yeah, he's able to Death Bite and Bash to clear the board. And, still armor up again. Gain some more armor from the Bash. You still have the Gromash. You have an activator with a Death Bite, another one with a Cruel Task. You have the Shield Maiden for more armor. You basically have a full toolbox, whatever you need, you know.
We did say that that was potentially the window that Hot Form needed, but that Death Bite may be the nail in his coffin here. That is a huge draw from Nelio, able to clear the board and just gain a bunch more armor with Bash and armor up.
He could actually even set up lethal here. He's not going to do it. No way you go for that kind of risk. But he could play the Death Bite on Bash's opponent's face to put him down to low enough for the Chrome to Cruel Taskmaster.
Wow. Yeah, that's
actually
get
the job done.
And he can actually still armor up. He could go to 38. Is there a real risk? Like, what could Hot Form actually have?
But I don't know. Let's see him play a heal. But
it looks like he just goes for the conservative line of play. I don't blame him. It is flashy to try and two-turn kill him here, but you don't need to do anything like that in this matchup. You are a big favorite if you just kind of play it methodically.
Yeah, absolutely unnecessary to go for that kind of play. Hot Form picking up a sprint.
Yeah, one good draw deserves another. Hot Form picks up sprint and 4 more cards, but again, he doesn't have that many strong cards in his deck.
Blade Flurry is huge.
Second sprint.
All right, well, he can draw as many cards as he wants with that second sprint, but he is facing down Nelio's enormous health total and a Shield Maiden poised to come down. The Big Game Hunter is pretty unusual as a card in a rogue deck.
It is. I would be
not unusual as a card in Hot Form's deck.
It's true. He has played a lot of Big Game Hunters in all of his decks, really.
Yeah.
It's so tempting with just Grom here, because that's the bigger minion and you have the time to play it, but if he went for that play, he would be horribly punished by that BGH.
It looks like he may do it.
That might be a game-deciding moment right here.
The thing is, we talked about using Grom for removal. That's kind of the case when you go back and forth. But when the rogue just has a hand of 9 cards, you kind of want to start thinking about closing out the game.
I don't know that we've actually seen Big Game Hunter in Hot Form's hand.
No, I believe we have not.
I
believe we have not.
So this is actually Grom is a difficult minion for Rogue to typically remove. He can even just play Grom and attack face and not attack with his weapon. Like, I think that's also a totally reasonable option. He does choose to just play things safe, go with the Shield Maiden armor up.
Wow.
Now hot form prep. All right.
I think you just play a bunch of stuff.
Yeah, it looks like he's just going to go
sprint.
Big burst damage here.
Yeah.
Also
probably
clears off the Shield Maiden with the flurry I have to imagine will come down.
Probably wants to deal as much damage to his opponent's face as possible. Carefully sequencing there, going with the deckhand first.
Whoa, we've broken through the armor!
Yeah, finally, first blood!
Yeah.
All the way down to 26 after getting attacked for 17 in one turn. We do have the Taskmaster here that can easily clean off this deckhand. Or Emilio could go Grom face. It's possible. It's possible we just see Grom go to the face.
I think because nothing's been sapped this game, if you play the Grom, the most likely action from your opponent is the sap. And if you go face with Grom, put your opponent at 12, you have the slightly unpredictable finisher with Grom plus Cruel Task in the following turn. It seems like a good plan, unless you actually know for sure that Big Game Hunter is a part of the Rogue deck, which, I mean, is not impossible, as these players have played against each other and together, but that would be pretty wild.
I think 9 out of 10 players. Yeah, 9 out of 10 players would go for the Grom here if they don't know that there's a Big Game Hunter in the deck right now.
Yeah, we did hear actually hot from in his winner's interview against Nilio. He was asked by Rachel about his Rogue deck, and he was very cagey about it. And I have to imagine this is why. He doesn't want his opponents to know that he has cards like Big Game Hunter. And this is going to be a big swing. This could be a defining moment here.
Could be. Hotform still has a few more minions left in his deck.
He's going to prep sprint before the BGH.
Yep, Shredder would probably be the best possible draw.
Shredder would not be playable.
Oh, no, actually. A 3-drop, yeah.
SI Agent.
Yep, that's better.
All right. Yeah, and look, Big Game Hunter takes out Grom and SI Agent, and now Hot Form's on the board with a reasonable amount of minions. He does have a second Tinkers and Blade Flare left in his hand. That can do a lot of damage very fast. Sludge Belcher, not terribly exciting when you know your opponent has drawn a lot of cards and still has sap left.
You have the clear brawl away 1 minion, Cruel Task Execute.
It is an option, and it's actually not an unreasonable option.
Oh, that's an unreasonable option.
I don't think it is. This is a matchup where your opponent doesn't have very many minions, and the only way you lose, really, is to consistent minion damage.
I just feel 2 is not threatening enough. If you use Brawl against 2, you probably just secure the loss against the next turn after considering you just sprinted.
What's a better opportunity to play a Brawl? Like, what do you...
3 minions.
Well, yes, that's true. But how often does the Rogue actually deploy all that many minions into the board?
I think if you play a Sludge Belcher, you're getting sapped, and Hot Form's playing a 3rd minion.
Maybe.
I wouldn't hate the Brawl here, to be honest.
I actually think it's a totally reasonable line of play here. Just clear their board. He does choose to go Sludge Belcher.
5 cards in the Rogue deck. Yeah, so not much, but that's enough to close out the game before you die to fatigue, I think.
It is. And Blood Mage Thalnos.
That kind of allows him to be, well, not even like necessarily sap that. He could just go for backsteps and fan of knives with that Blood Mage. A lot of options for Hot Form right now.
Yeah, so he does go with Prep, Tinker, Sharp Sword, Oil before he plays the Blood Mage if he does choose to, because he wants to guarantee it lands on one of the minions on the board.
That signals the sap.
Yeah, there's the sap.
I wonder if he's going to cycle a fan of knives. Seems like he's going to go for 1 fan.
Yeah, there's a heal bot.
Is nice. You might not die to fatigue or just a weapon draw here.
14 going to Nilio's face right here.
3rd creature, give me that brawl.
I don't know about that.
Uh-oh.
It seems very likely that Nilio would have the brawl. We of course have the information that it's in there, but if you Hot Form, the game is quite far already and no brawl has been
One concern that I have is you have much more potential damage if you hold back on the spell damage for next turn. That's why I think there's some reason for him to hold it back just for his own hand, regardless of what the warrior might have.
That's also true.
Dr. Boom would have been good a little while ago, but not so exciting right now when you're facing down so much damage in Nilio's Seat.
Yeah, you kind of have to play the taunt.
He has to execute the 6-3. And the taunt, he can actually do all of that. He can go for the Belcher, he can go for the Taskmaster, execute, and even armor up afterwards.
That's right.
that does potentially allow Hot Form to flurry away the
Belcher with
Taskmaster
5.
and Belcher for 5 with the Blood Mage.
It does.
Actually, Hot Form has a really good chance here.
Yeah, this is a game that went from looking like Nilio was running away with it to very, very close.
Hot Form with those double sprints has been able to stay in the game, even though the card value for a warrior is higher.
These last few turns are just so important. One small slip up here means that you just lose, and your dream to play at the BlizzCon finals is over.
And Nilio does go with the Brawl, so I think he's going to make the Cruel Taskmaster execute play. Yeah.
Executes just to deal one damage.
After taking enormous amount of damage from those last turn, he decides to finally brawl away that board.
Yeah, but now we still have a decent play. We have the Blood Mage fan into a heal bot.
Oh, Shredder.
Shredder.
From the top. More minions is exactly what he needed. And that backstab deals with the Cruel Taskmaster quite easily.
Yeah, just deploying more minions, get that guy off the board, push for damage with these guys. The Belcher still threatening to die to Blood Mage Thalnos plus Blade Flurry. Execute with no activator.
Card.
Yeah.
This is slipping away from Nilio here.
Wait a second. Hot Form still has a sap left
I think
in
he
his
does.
deck, so he might be able to force draw it.
he sapped the Barongeddon.
Did he?
He sapped the Baron. No, he executed.
No, he
eviscerated
eviscerated.
Barongeddon.
Yeah, he
does
eviscerated
have
with the strike.
No,
So there
you're
should be
right.
one sap remaining. Some players only play one, but I would expect Hot Form to be playing 2 in this situation. But wow.
Hot Form felt like he was a huge underdog going into this matchup, but right now he looks like he's ahead.
Yeah.
But the Dr. Boom's still quite powerful, and Hot Form doesn't have that extra bit of damage to actually lethal Nilio just yet.
Well, I think his other cards eviscerate, so...
That would do it, I guess.
So Nilio thinking through what possible options he has here.
Well, Dr. Boom and Sludge Belcher.
Chooses to go Sludge Belcher. Armor's
I think if he gets Eviscerate, it's over, because he can do Blade Flurry for 5, Fan for 2, and then Eviscerate for 5.
7. He exactly lethal with that.
He might still draw it. He might still draw it, because the Fan might draw Eviscerate. I think he has
Blade Flurry.
Eviscerate and Sap in his deck right now. It's a 50-50 chance to win the
He
game.
had 1 card left. He just almost out of cards.
Well, that's going to be an
Fan?
Eviscerate, right? Is it? Oh, it's a sap.
It is the
a
other
Sap.
Sap.
Okay. So,
So
I guess he
Eviscerate.
did use Eviscerate, so I guess I miscounted.
Yeah,
And
I mean,
then
obviously you play 2 Eviscerates, so
Hot,
both of those have
Hot Form gets Nilio down to 3 life. That's going to be it. Nilio has,
Doomsayer!
No,
No,
Doomsayer
it
is
still
not
doesn't do it.
enough.
No, it still does not do
no,
it.
there's nothing that
He has
Nilio
to
can
armor
do.
up, go to 1, and the Rogue actually kills him with the hero power if that happens.
That is true. The Rogue Hero, but even if there is a Doomsayer coming for Hot Forms, Shredder still going to be able to end the game. With 0 cards in his deck and a
Hot
sap
Form
in
felt
his
like
hand.
he was such an underdog. He felt like his only way to win this match was to dodge this particular matchup, and he's on the verge of winning it. There's nothing Nilio can do.
There's literally nothing you can do. Hot Form has won this game. We have our first player from the America region to qualify for the BlizzCon finals.
I mean, maybe Hot Form takes mercy on him. He is Canadian.
No chance.
You know, he's just going to say, oh, no.
No. Canadians are nice, but then when there's something
they're
at
not
stake,
that nice.
the niceness goes away. Neil's just thinking maybe there's something I can't think of that helps me in this situation.
Snap Tangle, and that is it. Hot Form will advance to the BlizzCon main stage, top 8.
Hot Form advances on the back of beating Nilio twice in extremely close matches, 3-2, both times in some fairly unlikely circumstances, just as we saw there.
Yeah,
Hot Form gave himself 20% chance to win that matchup. He did it on the big stage with so much on the line.
That's why we play the games.
Yeah, and that was really, really crazy. So it's still evened out. No region has more than 2 players to advance yet, but coming up next we have a Ping Ping Ho versus a Purple. Ping Ping Ho is from the Asia Pacific region, and Purple is from the Canada region, which I believe is part of the Americas. So we'll have to see. We'll have to see if there is going to be balance or a little bit of imbalance in the favor of the Asia Pacific region.
Will it be
in our
Purple
BlizzCon.
who brings balance to the Force?
We'll have to see. I'm sure Purple would like that. But for now, let's hear from the other Canadian, the more recent winner, Hot Form.
Thanks so much, gentlemen. I'm here with Hotform, our first America's player to make it to the top 8. And you went into that final matchup with your Rogue against his Warrior. What was going through your mind?
I mean, they had been long games the whole series. Going into that match, I'm definitely unfavored, so I was pretty nervous. But I got through it. It's time to party. Oh, man, I got like a week till my next match, so I'm definitely going to enjoy some parties. There's so many cool people here. Getting to hang out with all the other teams has been fantastic. So it's been great. Thank you.
Yeah, your chat has been working hard for you, cheering for you. Is there any chance you're going to be able to stream before BlizzCon?
Yeah, I'm going to try my best. I really want to hang out with some of you guys. I've been missing you. You know, it's tough sometimes when I can't stream, but I'll definitely be doing my best to get there.
Well, congratulations once again. A very happy winner here on to the top 8 at BlizzCon. We have one more match coming up. Please don't go anywhere.
Our final game of our pre-BlizzCon qualifier is going to happen coming up. But before that, before we really get to see what our final BlizzCon lineup will be like, we want to thank our sponsors to make this tournament happen, and of course, getting it all together. And also before that, let's just have a quick look at some of the highlights from the last few games. And of course, it's brought to you by Windows 10 Game DVR.
The 2015 World Championship Series Global Finals is brought to you in part by Intel, Windows 10, MasterCard, and T-Mobile.